Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Market Open. We are here, day 2, live from India, and we've got a lot to talk about on another day, October 9th, to start out the Market Open. Now, a couple of things. So 2 things. Number 1, back at the hotel again. Decided that probably doing the Market Open for my grandparents' apartment was not the best idea because there's honestly 30 people running around, and so it would be pretty tough to do the Market Open there. So back at the hotel. However, I got to the hotel and Wi-Fi sucks at the hotel. Yesterday was great. Yesterday we had no problems on the stream. Today it sucks. I'm on my hotspot right now. I really hope the hotspot holds up. Let me know if there's too many pauses or lags or anything. I think it should be okay. Second of all, I took off the Indian IT consultant headset, and I think this microphone should be way better. Honestly, I don't know why I wore that yesterday. I felt like it was for the aesthetic, but that mic sucks compared to this mic, which is $175. That mic was like $25. I don't know why I did that yesterday, but this mic should be way better. So audio should be good. And then third of all, unfortunately, this camera is just not working. I don't know why it's not working. This is my good camera. I hooked it up. It keeps pausing every time I set it up, connect to it. I don't know what's going on. So unfortunately, we have the blurry screen. Hopefully we can fix that later. But for now, we are still here. And we are back. Wait, can you move the mic back closer like you showed? All right, let's move it much closer. That should hopefully help with the audio. And that should be a little bit better. All right, folks, second day for the Market Open in India. Yesterday was a wild day because after I got off the stream, we had Palantir hit $41. By the way, no one wanted to correct me because I guess everyone was so excited. But when I made the tweet about Palantir hitting $40, I spelled 40 wrong. No one. I think one person corrected me in the morning. I was like, I guess everyone just didn't care, bro. They were like, forget. I spelled it with a U, bro. I was like, how did I spell it with a U? But I spelled 40 wrong. But we got to 40-1. So we'll talk about Palantir. And then Hood got up to 25.70 or something. I think it closed out at 25.60 for the night. I think right now the pre-market's at 25.20. But the fact that we got to 25.70 was pretty incredible. I have a bunch of updates on Robinhood, some stuff I found out yesterday. Also, we got a brand new announcement by them today in the morning, so we'll talk about that as well. And we'll keep discussing and going from there. Tesla 1010 is tomorrow. I do think I'll be able to stream Tesla 1010. We have some new updates this morning that are very bullish for Tesla. Tesla right now in the pre-markets. Palantir's at 41.50, up just slightly in the pre-markets. I do think 42 is a possibility if things work out. We'll see what happens, but I think there is a chance. Robinhood 25.19 in the pre-markets, and Tesla in the pre-markets are at 243. Tesla down a little bit, but the 2 updates we got this morning were pretty bullish. And so we will see how those updates play into 1010 officially as we get into that tomorrow. And then we got some Google updates because the DOJ wants to get more excited with breaking up Google. So a lot of stuff to talk about. Before we get into it, let me show you how I got to this hotel. It's like a 5-minute rickshaw drive away. This is this happened basically 20 minutes before the show started today. Morning, folks. I'm about to go do the Market Open. I'm in a rickshaw. These are the streets of India, and we're pulling up to the place where I'm about to go do the Market Open from. It's about 6 p.m. Indian time. It's like 8 a.m. in the States, on the East Coast. And this is a rickshaw drive. See how close that person was right there? Like, oh, my headphones. There we go. We got him. It's crazy, bro. Crazy. So a couple things. Number one, you could see how close that girl was when we went past her. I mean, literally, there's no accidents. There's no accidents. You're going through the cows and the dogs and the people, and you're just scraping by them, but no accidents. I have not seen an accident. Second of all, most of the rickshaws are now electric. So I said yesterday, I don't see any Teslas in India. Almost every rickshaw I've seen is electric. There used to only be bicycle rickshaws or gasoline rickshaws that had 3-wheelers. This one is now electric, and I've seen a lot of them over the past couple of days. So that seems to be a new update from 5 years ago. And then third of all, cat-like Indian reflexes, catching those headphones, baby. We saved. These headphones fell. I don't know if we would have got them back, but we got the headphones. They're saved. We're good to go. And I guess it's just in my blood to not get into these accidents. And it is just incredible, the type of driving skills that are required in India. I mean, it's not easy. but these drivers are getting the job done. All right, so let's get started. I think we'll start off with Palantir, and then we'll keep going from there. We have a ton of other updates to get into, but Palantir is the first story. So look, nothing crazy on Palantir yesterday. The only thing I have was Shyam Sankar was on CNBC, and he was talking, and he said some really cool stuff. I'm sure you guys have seen the interview. I'll pull up a couple clips of the interview in a second, but nothing too crazy that would cause a 7% day that we had yesterday. So I don't really know what's going on. I talked to a couple people over the past 24 hours. Again, my thoughts yesterday was that it's institutional. I think there's a level of retail FOMO happening with the stock. I don't think it is monumental to the point where it is all retail controlling this price action. Maybe it is. $92 billion market cap with less than $3 billion in revenue. I get that it's expensive. Price of sales of 43. Average price of sales is like 7 for the, I get it. I understand it's expensive. However, momentum is there. And I just don't think retail's buying it up to buy it up, because this isn't a GameStop story where you're trying to burn the shorts. This is a story where you have 2.3 billion shares outstanding. You've got 44% of an institutional float, and you've got a 3% short float. It's just the characteristics to make this be a pump the way that we've seen historical short squeezes happen, or historical low float companies get momentum and then retail pushes it over the edge. I just don't think that's the case, dude. I just really don't think that's the case. So as Quarantined Quartet right here says, these prices feel so unreal. I agree with you. It does feel unreal. Doug says this is starting to look like a blow off top. I think that's the case as well for the broader market. And we'll talk about the macro in a second as well. But in general, can it continue and we go to 42 today? I mean, we hit 42 in Robinhood overnight. We did hit 42. And now Robinhood overnight is different from the actual market open. But the fact that we're holding 41.50 in the pre-markets means that people are buying it at these levels. So do I think we can go to 42? Yeah, I really do think we can. Am I really happy I didn't sell those covered calls a couple of days ago? Yeah, but I also can't blame anyone who did sell covered calls, because the price action is quite literally insane. I mean, there's nothing more that we can describe against this. So let's hear from Shyam Sankar and hear what he said. He didn't say anything that was that different from what we hadn't known over the past couple of weeks in terms of analyzing Palantir. I do think if you're in covered calls from the prices of 35-ish to 45, I do think you'll be able to navigate those, especially if they're expiring in the next couple of weeks. I don't think anyone should be struggling too much. My dad did have $40 covered calls in December, and we rolled out of those for April for $50. So, and that was his decision, actually. I didn't make that decision for him. He called me. He's learning a lot about selling options, covered calls, and he wanted to make that decision. And so I said, all right, let's, go with that and give him a little bit more autonomy over how he's navigating his shares. He has about 200 shares, averages $20. And so we paid about $220 as a debit to get out of that covered call in 40 for December. Do I think we're going to be above 40 by December? I kind of do, which is why I'm thinking, might as well roll right now and see what we can navigate with. Could we have collected more theta if we wait? Yeah, that's probably the case. And that's why I don't think you have to, really worry about rolling too much at these prices. However, if we have a blow off the top and we get to 45.50, it would be much harder rolling at that time versus now. So kind of navigating it from this perspective. I do think, again, the market gives you opportunities to get out of dicey covered calls, especially if you're within a range. Now, if you've got a covered call at 25, those shares might never come back. It just is what it is. Or you're going to have to pay an upfront debit that is massive to get out of the shares. Maybe it's worth it. Maybe it's not. But if you're in this 35 to 40 range, I think it'll be okay. I could be wrong in the next few months. But if I'm wrong, technically, that means if your covered calls are not on your entire position, at least some shares are good. If not, you're just going to have to keep rolling it and navigating it from them. But these, I can't blame anyone who sold covered calls, because I don't think anyone, when we were at 20, expected in less than 5 months we would get to 40. I don't think anyone expected it. And so the fact that we're here, it's an uncharted territories. And so we have to be able to navigate. Also, these $60 strikes are now open for January. If I'm not wrong, I saw that last night. I think they're going to open up trading today. So that is a potential possibility if you guys want to roll into $60 for January 2025. Here's Shyam on CNBC yesterday.
This is a unique moment for Palantir here. We have the tailwinds in the commercial business, the rate of adoption of AI, the normative view that enterprise automation is where the value is, and the tool chain. You could say, it's a 10-year overnight success. The foundational investments that we've made in ontology are the prerequisites that you need to put these workflows into production quickly, to get from a charismatic prototype to actual business value. I would say one of our customers, a very large U.S. insurance company, we've automated all of insurance underwriting. A process that used to take 2 weeks can now be done in 3 hours with a 78 agent AI model. And you can think about that as not just the time saved, which is the first order benefit, but the second order benefit is if all of your competitors take 2 weeks to price risk and you take 3 hours, it's going to be a fundamental dislocation of the market. This is a unique moment for Palantir here. We have
nothing too different from what he said in the past, but that insurance example, I do feel like I've heard that before. I don't know where. I feel like I've heard it before, but that shows you just how much value 3 weeks to 2 hours is a big difference. And that time to value is obviously what's valuable for Palantir and for AIP. Here's another clip around Sham talking about the geopolitical concepts of why it's a tailwind for Palantir's business in the defense on the defense side.
What about what Carl mentioned on the military side of things and that business and the growth rate right now, given the geopolitical backdrop is going from bad to worse?
Absolutely. I mean, you can look at the current events in the Middle East, but I think if you zoom out a little bit, like we are as America in an undeclared state of emergency. You know, we have a year ago, we had a pogrom in Israel where 1,200 people were slaughtered. We've had over 100 attacks on U.S. bases from Iran. We have unprecedented phase zero and gray zone operations in the South China Sea from the CCP. And we have 1 million casualties in Ukraine. And these are not disconnected events. There is an axis of authoritarians who have lined up to counter Western and American interests here, and we have to rise to that occasion. A big part of that is not just the work we do with the military, AI enabling the kill chain to drive deterrence, to scare the bejesus out of our enemies, but also to reindustrialize America. You know, if we're really going to deter World War III, we have to be able to make things. A lot of the lessons from Ukraine, we spent 10 years of munitions, 10 years of production of munitions in 10 weeks. You know, that is a clarion call to refire up the arsenal of democracy so that we can actually deter great power conflict that might be coming.
How do you decide which governments to work with and which ones to not serve?
Well, you know, we have complete moral clarity on this. We work with the U.S. and her allies.
So look, that was the update from Sham yesterday. I'm sorry, guys, about this webcam. I tried to get the good camera to work. It's not working, but I'll hopefully get it to work by tomorrow. But look, that update, I think, was nothing crazy. He didn't say anything that was different. He said, hey, we got to protect the U.S. Hey, we've got these big insurance clients that we're creating transformational value for. And Palantir right here at 41.56 in the pre-markets. I asked on Twitter yesterday, what do you guys think the catalysts are? A lot of people just, here's one thing I forgot to mention. So yesterday I put out a list of a couple catalysts. One was the OpenAI evaluation. The other one was CPI going good. The other one was the NVIDIA Accenture partnership. And the other one was the Sham interview. I wasn't really satisfied with any of these reasons that I wrote down, but I needed to have some reasons because I really couldn't explain why Palantir was moving 6%. The one reason I forgot, which was very important, Leo says, are you streaming in India? Yes, this is the second market open from India today, is NVIDIA. NVIDIA pumped 5% yesterday. And if my analysis last week was correct, that Palantir is pumping on NVIDIA based on this whole enterprise AI demand story, and NVIDIA is going up, you could make a reasonable argument that NVIDIA is going up, that Palantir is going up as a byproduct of NVIDIA going up because NVIDIA is going to crush on earnings, and they're going to explode enterprise AI demand from a software perspective, which is what Jensen's been talking about over the past couple of weeks. By the way, he was meeting with investors yesterday in New York, kind of reassuring them of the demand for Blackwell and the longevity of their of the overall business, because a lot of concerns are still around the cyclicality of semiconductors. Then that would lead you to believe that Palantir also is getting a tailwind from that. So I think one of the easiest reasons to explain why Palantir went up yesterday is because NVIDIA went up. Again, it's not a direct one-to-one proportional like move every time NVIDIA goes up, but when it does happen, at least recently, it's helped Palantir. So, and NVIDIA's up pre-market today right now, 134. That is also helping Palantir. That is the best explanation I've got, folks. And I would love any explanations in the chat. Obviously, S&P 500 inclusion, institutions buying, but we kind of already know that, right? So if it's the same old, then, we don't need another reason. But if anyone does have any reasons, I would love to hear them. Someone says, why do you talk about covered calls on Palantir versus buying leaps? The only reason I'm not talking about buying leaps on Palantir, or really buying leaps on any stock in the stock market, is because you buy leaps when a stock's beaten up, right? Because you need an outsized move on a leap, particularly when it's out of the money, which is what most people do when they buy these leaps. And because that's like where most the risk reward is. And you're giving yourself time to allow that upside move to happen. It's not that I don't think Palantir can't be worth $70, $80 in 2-3 years in January 2027. It's that after moving up this much, the premium you would have to pay for those leaps, given those leaps are already up so much, is just like a lot, and the risk to reward might not be worth it. So there are some years where buying leaps are really good. End of 2023, buying leaps have worked out very well for a lot of people. If you bought Palantir leaps end of 2022 for 2024 or end of 2023 for 2025. And you could have picked simple strikes, 10, 15, 20. I mean, like it seemed aggressive at the time because the stock was at 7, but like in hindsight now it looks fairly simple. The stock had the ability to move to that level, to go from a $15 billion market cap to, I didn't expect 90 billion to, but at least to a 30 billion market cap. So a double on the stock could create like a 4 or 5x on the underlying. But now 90 billion, expecting it to go to 200 billion in 2 years, is just harder for that to happen. And so the risk reward might not be there. But for those that want to play in the leaps, if you believe Palantir can get to 60, 70, 80, and those leaps feel attractive to you, then that is one potential opportunity. It's just there might be a better opportunity to get those leaps versus buy them right now. Again, when a stock has run up so much, the shares of the underlying are a little bit more attractive than the leap itself to get to an even higher price. Luke says, I think the reason Palantir is pumping due to OpenAI's recent funding valued at 150 billion and now not being profitable. Yeah, I think the OpenAI argument is definitely a reason why Palantir is getting some momentum. I just don't know if that's the only reason. And the momentum for that, again, the OpenAI announcement happened a couple weeks ago. It's kind of old news at this point. So if the market's still pumping based on that news, then I guess the market just believe until we get to 150 billion. We got 60 billion more to go. So if you are buying those leaps, maybe that 60 billion on top of this 90 billion is going to come relatively soon. Again, I'm just speculating here, but it is pretty cool to see the momentum. One thing I do want to say, though, I was talking about this with Arnie in the morning. By the way, I did a podcast with Arnie. Dude, the podcast with Arnie was so funny last night because I really love Arnie. He's one of my best friends in this content creation Palantir game. And we did our first pod after like a year, just me and him one-on-one, even though we do like Palantir Weekly every week. And so I uploaded it. I scheduled it in the morning. I said, all right, I don't have to worry about this. It's good to go. And then at like 2 a.m. last night, after my eyes literally could not open. Why could my eyes not open? Because during the Eastern Standard Time, as the market is open, I was tracking the market. Why? Because my 2 biggest holdings were hitting new 52-week highs. And so this literally, dude, this meme, I didn't just post this to be funny. This was literally me yesterday. Like quite literally, I was trying to figure out how to keep my eyes open. The reason I'm bringing this up is because when I finally get to go to bed at 1:30, I'm just listening to the Arnie podcast as I go to sleep. And I realized there's a mistake at 8 minutes and 34 seconds. I was like, oh, he paused for a second and he asked me to repeat the question. And there's like this 15, 20 seconds of you didn't need this part of the interview, right? So I was like, it's 1:30. I am dead tired. Or no, at that point, it was almost 3:30. I'm dead tired. I'm ready to go to sleep. But I really don't want any mistakes in this podcast. So I re-export the whole thing. I get rid of those stupid 25 seconds because it was driving me crazy, the fact that it was up there. And I was like, all right, I'm going to re-export it, and then I'm going to upload that. I have the thumbnail, have the description. I'm ready to go. Then I'm going to go to sleep. It says 20 minutes to re-export. I'm like, okay, 20 minutes. I can close my eyes for 20 minutes and then get ready to upload. All I have to do is drag it into YouTube after it's done exporting. And then I fall asleep for the next 2 hours. I wake up. The video I had scheduled with the 20 seconds mistake is already live. It already has like 500 views. And I'm like, all right, well, I can't fix that mistake. So I did not need to stay up late to fix those 20 seconds, but I really wanted to. And that pushed me up another hour. And then I fell asleep. And then I woke up at 8 a.m. So really, I had 4 hours of sleep. And you might be saying, hey, why didn't you sleep throughout the day? Because I didn't do anything throughout the day because everyone else was shopping in the family. And I just couldn't fall asleep throughout the day. So I am dead tired, but I'm still so excited to be here. And the reason I brought all this up is because as I talked with Arnie yesterday after we did that podcast, I said, hey, Arnie, why do you think the stock keeps running? And his argument was, dude, everyone wants to call a top to a company that has way too many freaking catalysts to have a top. Meaning, can it be topping out? Of course. But can it also just be getting started? Yeah. Now, does the valuation make a lot of sense here? Probably not. But in the words of Arnie, as he said in this podcast, it's expensive, not overvalued. And some people may be saying, hey, that's just semantics. I don't think it's just semantics. Overvalued is a broader argument that this stock doesn't deserve to be here. Expensive is, hey, it deserves to be here. But if you're buying it right now, the risk to reward is not that amazing. And that's exactly what my uncle said yesterday on the India segment that we did on the show. By the way, you guys made his day, dude. Like his son thought he would get roasted in the comments, and you guys just like showed him so much love. He sent the video to all of his like colleagues at the bank, and they were like so impressed. Like it was you guys really made his day. But he did a great job. He was able to talk for 45 minutes just off the dome about India and their growth. And what he said yesterday was, hey, India is expensive. He said, if you buy India right now, given the run it's had over the past 5 years, it's expensive, but it's not overvalued because there's 1.4 billion people that are ready to keep consuming. Dude, there's this app called Blinkit today in India. We ordered chips, soda, and a bunch of little knickknacks. It came in 8 minutes. Imagine your Uber Eats coming in 8 minutes, and not just for food from a restaurant, but like anything you need. We're gonna do some gambling tonight because me and my uncle and my other uncles, we always gamble. So we had to get some poker chips. The poker chips came. The poker chips cost like $5 for this like big set of poker chips. The chips here cost like 50 cents. A Red Bull costs like $1. In the States, it's at $3.50. Like, it's just insane. And someone delivered it in 5 minutes or 8 minutes. So the amount of consumption that is ready to exist in India is massive. And that's why, although it's expensive buying India right now, it's not overvalued because there's growth prospects. Same thing for Palantir. There are so many growth prospects that although it's expensive, I don't think it's overvalued. So I don't think we need the 50, 75% retracement that a lot of the bears on Twitter are saying Palantir deserves. But I also don't think it needs to pump to $50, $60 because we pumped a lot. I think it can consolidate here, but I've been saying that since 35 and it hasn't been consolidating. It's just been going higher. And so when the market opens in 23 minutes, we'll kind of see where it goes and how things go forward. How much are the haircuts? So I got a face massage yesterday, like a 25-minute face massage. Some dude had his hands all over my face and he was rubbing it in the most scrumptious of ways. It was $5, bro. It was $5 freaking dollars. You guys were getting upset at me when I gave a $5 tip to my barber in the United States who did a $35 haircut. This guy charged $5 to massage my face and put all these oils and whatever he put into my face. Like, it was incredible, dude. Like, it's got me thinking, hey, should I live here? But the only reason I can't live here is because I cannot do the market open at 6 p.m. every day. This is ridiculous. Like, the day is almost over. Your day is just getting started. The market's about to open up, which means it's about to be the start of a brand new day, but my day is ending. So there is no way I could ever live here. But if I did, I mean, the cost of living is so low in regards to just how much economies of scale there are, how much competition there is, that it makes you think, hey, like, do I really got to pay $35 for a haircut? You know, do you really have to when you can get it for like $10? But it's just pretty incredible here. Now, obviously, the growth in India is massive. And the fact that so many people are willing to do so much labor just means that there's this growing middle class that wants to contribute to the broader economy. So that's what I got in the context of Palantir. And it seems like, you know, we'll see what happens when the market opens, but it's been pretty exciting to see some of this price action. Amit, what was the shirt you were wearing yesterday? It was a traditional Indian like jacket. We actually brought it not from India. We brought it in America. I wore it once on the market open like a while ago, but I thought I would wear it yesterday because, you know, why not? We're first day in India. Now we're back to the American Adidas. Amit, do you play caroms? Yes, I play caroms. I love that game. Hopefully we'll play. We're going to this like resort in Jaipur in like 3 days or 4 days. So hopefully over there, we're going to be able to play with a lot of people that are coming. And again, dude, the reason I just love India so much is because all my family's here, right? And I don't get to see my family that often. So that's the fun part about coming here. But we got to keep the market going. We got to keep the market open. And so I'm really happy we're able to get this little setup here to keep doing the show, because at the end of the day, the market does not close for anyone. But the fact that it opens at 6 p.m. here is just, for the American time difference, is just so wild to navigate it from here. I mean, what's the weather like here? It's 80 degrees, but the wind is not bad. Or the wind is there, so it doesn't feel like 80 degrees. So it's October. If this was July, it would be worse. But the fact that it's October makes it not bad at all. And yeah, this is the first time I've ever been in India in October, but the wind here kind of subsidizes the fact that it's like still 80 to 90 degrees. Like, I walked today for 2 hours just across, like, you know, the apartment complex my grandparents live in. And it was great. I wasn't sweating or anything. It was a nice place to be in. Okay, cool. So that's what we have in the context of Palantir. Let's do a quick Robinhood segment, and then we'll get into some macro. So 2 things on Robinhood that are important. I found out a couple things yesterday. Number one, Cathie Wood sold 1 million shares. Now, before everyone gets upset about that, she sold because of this 2 stars that you see right here. She sold due to a 13 DC2B regulation, which is, I don't even know why this regulation exists, but it exists. I guess for conflicts of interest, whatever it may be. But when a brokerage becomes more than 5% of an ETF, they have to sell off the underlying to not let it become more than 5% weighting of an ETF. So like in any stock, it can't be more than 10%. So every time Tesla runs, Cathie has to sell because it can't be 10%. But if it's a brokerage company, it can't be 5%. Again, I don't know really what's the logic behind this, but so Cathie sold 1 million shares. And then you got this fund called Bullfrog Capital. Bullfrog Capital sold 3.2 million shares of Robinhood yesterday. And they've been an early investor in the company since 2020. They own like 50 million shares. They own about 10% of the stock. And they ended up selling 3.2 million shares yesterday. This is the SEC filing right here. As you can see, 10% stockholder, they sold 3.2 million shares. Now, Kathy sold 1 million shares. Bullfrog Capital sold 3.2 million shares, and the stock was up 10%. So what am I left to conclude from this? And, we'll see what happens to the stock today. But I think the catalysts are baked in. I think the October event is what the street's getting excited about. I think the investor day we talked about yesterday is what the street is really getting excited about. I think the street basically says, hey, we believe that you're now a mature company because you're willing to talk to us in an official investor day, which means we have to answer hard questions. And the fact that you're willing to show off what you're working on in this investor day means that you probably believe that there's a long tailwind of growth coming up. So I think those catalysts were enough to pump the stock 10% in the face of a ton of selling by institutional investors, which means that there were plenty of people willing to buy up those shares at $25 because they felt that they were getting a good deal. On top of that, Robinhood this morning just announced Hood Week, which is going to be October 16th to October 27th. What is Hood Week? We talked about it yesterday. They were teasing this. Apparently, Hood Week is taking advantage of unlimited bonuses during Hood Week earned when you transfer assets into Robinhood, IRAs, margin balances, or other brokerage accounts. Just start your transfers by 10/27 to take advantage of these fabled offers. I think this is more than 1% matches. I think they're doing some other stuff here. Again, it's still kind of vague, but if they're saying epic offers are on the horizon, I don't think that's just a 1% brokerage match. I think they're going to be doing a lot of different variations of offers to get people to be incentivized to transfer things into Robinhood. And that's going to be Hood Week, going to be a limited time, which means, from my understanding, I think that's just going to juice up deposits in October. So you've got this Robinhood Week coming up. You've got institutional selling into strength based on the price action for this new investor day. And then you've got a Q3 earnings that I think, even with the most conservative assumptions, is probably going to grow 40%. And that's why the momentum is there. Now, why is Robinhood down about 1.68% of the pre-market? Well, a couple reasons. Number one, Bitcoin is below 62,000. Now, Robinhood moved independent of Bitcoin yesterday, which was really good, and independent of the broader market. The broader market, S&P 500 here, basically flat right now. So I don't think that's separated Robinhood from the algorithmic trajectories of Bitcoin and the S&P, because I think Robinhood is still tied to those two assets. But on a day where it has some big news, which I don't know if the investor day was the biggest news, but it was big news to the market, that is what gets the stock to move a bit higher. But I do think, and we kind of said this yesterday, it can go lower on institutional investors potentially taking advantage of more profits, or of the just algorithmically Bitcoin and the S&P slowing down, because Robinhood is tied to the crypto markets and to the broader macro. So I think that's why it's down right now. We'll see if people take advantage of that dip, and we'll see if that can continue to hold that 25.50 level that I think is very important. But the fact that we got to 25 in a day, going up 9.82% based on this investor day catalyst, and based on people still selling that were large shareholders, is very bullish to me. And I think that is a good thing for Robinhood. NVIDIA right here, 132. It's up 1% in the pre-markets. We have the Qs down about 0.05%. CrowdStrike 293. We got Rocket Lab 941. That's basically flat. Bitcoin right below 62,000. SMCI, I still don't know why it was down 5% yesterday. If anyone knows, let me know, because I think it's only based on the Intel news, which is ridiculous if they partnered with Intel and Intel, if Intel's the reason the street didn't like the partnership. Intel was up 4% yesterday. So I don't know why SMCI was down 5%, but maybe it was people taking profits after a 15% day as well. IWM up a little bit, down a little bit in the pre-markets. It was basically flat yesterday. You got SoFi up a little bit, 846. SoFi was up 2% yesterday as well. And then you got Celsius. We'll talk more about that, but Celsius now basically at 52-week lows. $6.7 billion market cap, $29 in the pre-markets, did hit $28.74 yesterday for Celsius. And so that's what we got going on right now as we take a look in some of the pre-markets. Now, let's talk about the macro. I think we got to start off, obviously, with China. China's still struggling. And I didn't expect China to struggle this much today after they after the rough day they had yesterday. But it's bad, dude. China CSI fell 7%. Investors are still concerned that there's no stimulus coming. Alibaba right now in the pre-markets is down another 4%. NEO, after being down 7% yesterday, NEO in the pre-markets down another 2% after being down 8% yesterday. FXI was down 9% yesterday. FXI is down another 3.27% today. Now, some people can say, hey, these are pullbacks that are necessary because individual countries should not have their ETFs that are a conglomeration of those companies go up 30% in a week. I agree. You probably should have a little bit of a pullback. But this aggressive of a pullback, and because of this justification, is a little bit concerning. And the fact that it's in its second day in a row, meaning no one's buying the dip, or at least not enough people are buying the dip to overcome the selling on these indices, is a bit concerning. Now, the one piece of bullish news I'll say is that, well, two things. The minister of the Bank of China, one of these guys in these high-level positions, is hosting another meeting in a week. Or it actually might be on Friday. I might be getting the dates wrong, but Bloomberg reported that they're hosting another meeting to talk about stimulus. So maybe the Chinese government saw the market's reaction. They're like, screw this. We got to do some type of stimulus. So maybe we're going to be getting some announcement soon, and that could stabilize the broader Chinese markets. Also, that might be a reason NVIDIA is pumping, because money is just leaving China and going into NVIDIA. Japan was up 1% last night. Maybe money's leaving Japan, or China going to Japan. India was up another 1% today. It was up, I think, 2% yesterday. Maybe money is leaving the Chinese trade and coming back into other equities. So that could be a reason explaining some of the global equities starting to go higher in other parts of the world. The other reason I think that is kind of bullish on this China argument, not bullish in the short term, but at least can massage some of the concerns investors have, is that there was one article I read that the Chinese government is afraid that if Trump wins, he's going to pass a crap ton of tariffs, which honestly, I don't know how I didn't think about this. Like, this is so logical. If Trump passes a ton of tariffs, or at least if Trump wins and he's rumored to start threatening to pass a ton of tariffs on the Chinese, all of their stimulus, the article was saying, is going to go to shit. Because now investors are going to have to price in a trade war between China and the United States. That happened in 2018. That was not pretty. That was not pretty. At the end of 2018, the market had a nice little retracement going into Christmas Eve. And any of their stimulative efforts might be dampened by more tariffs. So one could argue the article's conclusion was, hey, China's waiting to get election clarity to figure out, is Trump actually going to win? And if he does win, then maybe they take different approaches to passing their stimulus to kind of guardrail against the tariffs that Trump might be passing. So I think that's the argument for why China is not passing massive stimulus. Another argument could, because again, it doesn't make any sense. I don't know why China would stimulus the way they stimulated 2 weeks ago and then not further that stimulus. Like, that just makes no sense. China's GDP grew on an annual basis from 2008 to 2023, 4% a year. The stock market was flat. Like, that's how bad the stock market has been. Like, they've just not seen momentum. They finally got investors to get excited, and boom, that stops because you're not passing stimulus. So I think there is maybe more of a political reason happening here, or the CCP is just the CCP and they're like, screw it, we don't want to give any more stimulus because we don't want to give any more stimulus. I don't know what the logic is behind that, but there is never any logic around stimulus or around the CCP. So I'm a bit confused here, but I do think in the broader scheme of things that China should stimulate more and that should help equities. I'm just not buying that dip because I don't trust it. And I think I think those that are in the game, like David Tepper, I think he's probably buying the dip, but if he's selling, then that's scary. Because if David Tepper, American billionaire hedge fund manager, says buy everything in China, and then he's like, yeah, no, I changed my mind because the CCP is bipolar. Like, well, I don't know what thesis that remains that's left. The other thing here is, if you got into China as a hey, China's stimulating, there's if you, like my uncle yesterday talking about India, if you felt the same arguments that he was talking about for the Chinese economy, maybe not exactly the same, but to an extent, and you decided this was a generational opportunity now that they're stimulating, and a negative 10% pullback makes you not want to buy the dip, you had no thesis to begin with. And you've got to admit that to yourself. And that's okay. I've entered into trades before where I thought I had a thesis. I definitely didn't have a thesis. The stock goes down, the ETF goes down. I'm like, that was pretty stupid of me. I probably should get out of this because I don't believe in this. It is what it is, but you got to be honest with yourself. If you really don't have a thesis, I wouldn't go through the pain of sticking with it. But if you have a thesis, or you're developing a thesis now that the pain of sticking with it is forcing you to develop a thesis, then maybe this is an opportunity to DCA on. For now, I think we just need to wait. I am in no rush to buy Chinese equities. I don't think anyone should be in a rush. I think we get more clarity. The move has already happened, 30 to 40%. So the risk to reward is not that exciting right now either. And if we get more clarity, then I think it'll be easier to stomach buying equities in China. But I think the risks still remain for a decent period of time. Doug says Biden doubled down on Trump's tariffs. They are higher now than they were during Trump. I think the types of tariffs that Trump is planning to enact is what's getting China worried. Particularly on this like flat tariff idea that Trump has, that anything that's not manufactured in the United States, which to my understanding is not the current US policy, gets a 15% tax. If that's the case, there's a lot more Chinese goods that currently don't have tariffs that are going to get tariffs that might mess up their stimulative efforts. At least that's one of the theories that's out there. So I think that's kind of why they're scared and they might be waiting. And if that's the case, then we're gonna have to wait a little bit longer to see if we're gonna get stimulus from China. All right, so that's what we got going on China. Tesla 1010 is happening tomorrow, folks. I am pretty damn excited for this 1010 event happening because obviously it's going to be a big event that I think is going to change the trajectory of the company as long as they have reasonable timelines on how they're rolling out what they're doing. 2 updates we got today. Number 1, this morning, Tesla announced that they sold 22,600 cars in China during the last week of Q3, making it their best week ever in China. That is bullish. I don't know exactly what's spurring the Chinese demand. I got to go kind of deeper. If anyone has any theories, put it in the chat, but that's definitely good. That's not bad. Now, the second piece of news, which is way bigger than the China piece of news, is that Tesla is putting out a 0% APR for new Model 3 and Model Y finance orders in the US for loan terms up to 3 years, 72 months, with a minimum down payment of, or that's not 72. That's what? That's six years. Yeah, around about five years. Yeah, basically 6 years. 6 years, you can have 0% APR on a Model 3 or Model Y if you put a down payment of 15% on your Tesla. That is also really bullish. Now, look, the China ramp up is something good. A lot of people saw that coming in the data, which is very important. The 0% APR is great for deliveries. It sucks for margins. But if the 1010 event is going to be how autonomy and FSD is for the future, the street might not care about margins. I think that's a big thing to say, that the street's just not going to care about margins. But again, maybe this 1010 event is just that legendary, that epic, that the street's like, you know what, screw the margins. FSD is real. Tesla has a plan to win. We're going to factor this into our valuations. We can have a decrease in margins, but we can have an increase in this FSD SaaS revenue year over year over the next 5 years. And then boom, we might get some juicy price targets. 0% APR is only if you buy FSD. Thank you for that clarification. That is an important clarification. So if you buy FSD, you get 0% APR as well, which look is a caveat to 0% APR, but still, I mean, for the people that want to have a Tesla, for the people that, you know, have been thinking about getting a Tesla, also you get that $7,500 EV tax credit. Maybe not when Trump gets elected, but for now you get it. To pay 0% APR, especially if you are a fan of FSD, and if you get FSD and you get 0% APR, and then in a couple years, your car turns into a business for you because it becomes part of a fleet of robots. I know that's like the broader vision. That's not the worst thing in the world. It's not the worst thing in the world. So ultimately, I think it's a question of how excited people get about that broader thesis on Tesla. But tomorrow we find out. Tomorrow we officially find out what Tesla's been cooking up. I do think I'll be able to stream it. I'll put a community update on YouTube if I'm not able to stream it, but I'm pretty sure I'll be able to stream it. And it'll be around like it'll be around 7 a.m. my time. So yeah, I should be up and I should be able to stream it, and it should be pretty exciting. I think the event starts at like 9 p.m. or 10 p.m. Eastern Standard. So it's gonna be fun to see how that plays out. NVIDIA right here at 132, Palantir at 41.45 in the pre-markets. Robinhood down a little bit, 1.72%. S&P 500 up a little bit as well. And then we got the Qs right here at 489 in the pre-markets as well. NVIDIA is indeed up 1.3%. I mean, look, NVIDIA back to 140. That would be exciting to see. I don't know if we get that. That would be adding another 50 billion in market cap if we get there. But 140 is where NVIDIA was chilling at for a little bit before things came to, you know, a halt and we had to go all the way back down. If we can get back there, that would not be the worst thing in the world. Let's get a little update on NVIDIA since we're talking about that and why being overweight semiconductors going into Q3 might not be the worst idea. And then we'll get into the market open in just about 5 minutes.
Is in New York today telling all the institutional investors that there will be return on investment for NVIDIA and calming people down a little bit. Because I you know, when I do my meetings in this last week, I'd say 3 or 4 times it comes up, hey, I think one of the biggest investment controversies is what will the return on all the capital spending be for the hyperscalers? And so you get the CEO of NVIDIA in town saying, calm down. And I don't know if guys went out and bought more or whatever, but you know, that stock acts well.
They actually did.
Yeah.
I mean, they're buying.
So
it's up 4%.
He's meeting all the big investors. He comes around regularly. You know, he's doing his normal kind of Boston, New York trip. But I think he knows that one of the biggest 5 or 10 investment controversies across the whole stock market is, will companies see return on that? And then the answer he's telling you is, yeah. I mean, after lunch meeting I went and looked at the healthcare stuff on NVIDIA's website just to get excited about some of the, you know, applications there. So for sure, I think that debate, people know that, you know, the quarter is going to be fine. It's not for quite a while, but that maybe they feel a little better about that debate than they did before they went around and came to town.
Do you feel a little better about this trade then? The overall mega cap tech trade? Now, this is back above $3 trillion in market cap.
I still think that, well, two things. There's two currents there. One, I think semis, you want to be overweight for 1, 2, 3, and 5 years. Okay, I like the trade. I don't think I'm smart enough to know exactly what's 3 weeks. It pulls back 20, 30%. But NVIDIA was at 14. It went to 140. I wasn't smart enough to sell it down to 100. I'm not smart enough to. It's a long.
Okay, so you say
in the whole complex.
Then don't pay attention to the price action really in that space.
I don't think so. What I think happens with growth investing is only when you get in the top decile, the most expensive 10% on enterprise value to forecasted sales, then you get in that alarm area. But as you know, a lot of the semi companies' revenue is up a lot and their estimates are up a lot. And so the valuation isn't crazy for a lot of these names.
You know, I had Rick Reeder.
You know, I think he's right about that. And that SMCI news about shipping 100,000 GPUs, I think that's been a tailwind for NVIDIA. Now, look, he has made a point that a lot of analysts have made over the past couple of weeks that the semis are going to show more growth. Therefore, the semis should be considered not necessarily cheap. By the way, Robinhood just went vertical 3 minutes before the market opens. It was down almost 2%. Now it's up 0.12%. This is almost exactly what happened yesterday. It kind of spiked up right before the market opened. So you got some momentum right there. But look, in terms of the semis, if NVIDIA crushes the way they said they're going to crush with Blackwell, here are the semis in the pre-markets. Most of them are down just a little bit. NVIDIA's up, AMD is up, SMCI is up. Then the semis should do well. I mean, like the semis should continue to get some more momentum if NVIDIA crushes the way the way the market thinks they're going to crush in the context of Blackwell. Now, I think Jensen's been talking for the past couple of weeks that Blackwell demand is crazy, and people have kind of believed him, kind of not believed him. It seems like the market's getting ready, given NVIDIA's trying to touch all-time highs, that they're ready to believe him again. But I think until we get those numbers, the market is just going to be on edge because, again, NVIDIA has gone up a lot this year. And how do you give them more of a premium if you don't believe that Blackwell is going to massively beat expectations? They've got to beat those expectations massively for Blackwell to generate that premium. And so I think that's what the market's struggling with. But in general, if we get into Q3 earnings, which, by the way, starts on Friday, you got the banks getting ready to report, and you got tech earnings starting around October 21st, then the biggest worry, and we'll talk a lot about macro after the market opens because I got a bunch of charts that we're seeing in regards to Q3 earnings projections. Those Q3 earnings projections are going to be hard to beat because Q3 in 2023 was actually decent. And so the comps are a bit hard. The projections have come down 4%, and companies have to prove good guidance. So think about that. You got a triple-headed monster. You got hard comps in 2023. You've got projections that have already come down. So that means theoretically that's good for expectations, but that means if you don't even beat those projections, then the market's really going to get upset. And then B, you've got to give good guidance for Q4. And if you don't give good guidance for Q4, the market's really going to punish you because then they're going to think, all right, the market's already up a lot this year. So if the guidance isn't good, what are we buying in terms of future growth? So I think Q3 earnings are going to be really, really important, and companies are going to have to show that they have the momentum. But if they do, along with some of the macro data that we're getting, aka jobs and CPI and inflation starting to come down, then that should be a broader tailwind for equities. And once we get the election over with, November, December shouldn't be too bad for the broader stock market. All right, here we go. Second day live in India from the market open. Thank you everybody for being here. All eyes on Palantir, October 9th, 9:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, 7 p.m. Indian time. The stock market is now open. Wake your ass up. Here we go. $41.50 on Palantir. We do have a little bit of a red candle, down about 0 or up 0.04%. Now we just went red. All right, 41.34. Now we just went red. Wow, Robinhood also just going red. So Robinhood spiked to 25.74 right before the market opened. Now it's down 1.72%. That is some really unique price action. Either someone bought a ton right then in that moment. There was maybe a dark pool order and then they got sold off, or someone dumped right after at that moment. I'm not really sure how that's happening. I kind of feel that's a little bit institutional when you get that big of a dump in the market open, but we'll see how that plays out. Palantir struggling to maintain green, 41.46. I know obviously it's very, very greedy of us to want 42. Like it is beyond greedy of us to want 42, but I mean, we're only 40 cents away or 50 cents away. We might as well try to get to 42. Now, the interesting thing about Palantir here going red, we went red many times on the beginning of the market open. Within about 20 minutes, it reverses to the green. It oscillates around the 0.99 and the new dollar, and then we get there, and then we break above there, and then we stay above there to close the day. That has happened almost 5 times in a row over the past 2 weeks. If that continues to happen, then maybe that's the case with 42. If that doesn't happen, then maybe we kind of settle out in the 41s. I think even closing above 41 would be pretty bullish for Palantir. Robinhood 2516. Affirm got upgraded today by JP Morgan. They're at 42.54, up 3.3%. Roblox, that dip got eaten up yesterday. They were down 10%. Now I think they're about breaking even, up about 1% on the day. S&P 500 is down about 0.06%. Bank of America is down a little bit, 39.80. We saw Warren Buffett sell a crap ton of Bank of America, basically 8 million shares over the past 3 days. So he is unloading and taking some profits. Again, he's been holding these shares since about 2008. Rocket Lab 927, they're down about 1.59%. CrowdStrike 292, DocuSign 6771, SMCI up about 1%, 4580. JD.com down about 3.8%. Square is up 0.86%. Google, we'll talk about them and the DOJ potentially thinking of being more likely to break them up, which was a headline this morning. Google not down on that news, which is good and positive for Google, but Google 165 right now. NVIDIA continuing to maintain some momentum. Robinhood taking a beating right here. Now Robinhood going down about 3%, 2480 right now on the day. My expectation yesterday when we pumped was if we close above 2450, I would be happy. 2574 was like, all right, that's really cool. 2480, 2450, even a close above 24, I think is still healthy price action given we were stuck in 22 for almost 2 months now. The other thing that I think is really important when it comes to Robinhood is, again, same thing with Palantir. The catalyst has already happened, right? S&P inclusion has already happened. For Robinhood, it hasn't had some massive S&P inclusion, but the types of announcements people wanted, aka Investor Day, this massive October event that's coming up, and then this new Hood Week thing, these are priced in. So these catalysts have happened, and the stock has been able to show it's possible to go above 25 based on these catalysts because people have been buying above 25, which is very, very bullish. So these short-term retracements, I think as long as we hold some key price levels, Robinhood back to 25 right now, around that 24 to 25 range is good because the market knows what's coming. It's kind of like, hey, we know what's coming. And so it's just a question of how confident we are in the thing that's coming that's going to be good for the broader company. And if you are pretty confident, then the market probably buys those dips. Robinhood 24.94 right here, down about 2.6%. Palantir right back up 41.88. Again, the same price action for Palantir every single time that it dips in the opening bell. Like literally, it's 9:33, 7:03 my time. It's been 3 minutes. You got 4.9 million shares of volume. That's great volume for the first 3 minutes. You get a little bit of a dip, and then you get people ready to buy that dip, even though that dip is literally 50 cents. Like it is quite amazing how that has happened for the past couple of weeks. We'll see if it continues to maintain momentum. We did touch 41.91 right now at 41.72. Let me check how many shares do we need to get to 42, and if there's any big wall that is holding up 42. But maybe there is a shot that we see it here today. It might be institutions buying that dip, even though that dip's 50 cents. Maybe it's those institutions, but someone is indeed buying the dip almost every time it comes down. CPI is going to be tomorrow morning. I'm probably not doing the market open tomorrow morning. Actually, I'm definitely not doing the market open tomorrow morning, but I will be doing the Tesla event, which will technically be the market close. So no market open tomorrow morning. But Tesla event most likely will be happening. Okay, 42, 11,000 shares, 11,970. It's not too crazy. It feels like every day I say, well, at the next level of resistance, there's only 10,000 shares. Not too crazy. If we get the volume, we get there. It's like the same script I repeat every day. And then within 20 minutes, it like, well, the volume comes in. It ends up being not too crazy. The shares get bought up and then boom, you're at a new $1 for Palantir. So, I mean, dude, I think we've gone from 37 to 42 in the past week. So almost every day it's gained $1, which is it the healthiest price action? Not really. It's like objectively not really, but it is what it is. Like, that's all I can say. I feel like I've been pretty objective here saying, yes, the stock is expensive. Yes, you're getting to levels that might not be fully justified just by conventional growth metrics. But again, I say it again and again every single day. Companies can be overvalued or expensive for a long time. They don't have to be as cheap as the market wants them to be cheap if the market is willing to pay a premium. And for Palantir, the market is willing to pay a premium. NVIDIA right here at 133. Roblox actually up about 1.5% of the day. S&P at 572. Qs are down a little bit. Rocket Lab down about 4% right now. Bitcoin getting a little bit of a hit, 61,770. HBO Max made a new documentary saying they found out who Satoshi is. And the guy's name is Peter Todd, and he's some professor or something. Peter Todd came out and said he's not Satoshi, which, it's a lose-lose for him because not only is everyone speculating, but But that's exactly what Satoshi would say, that he's not Satoshi. So he's not proving anything by saying that. I haven't watched the documentary. I kind of tend to not believe these documentaries when they go down these rabbit holes. But look, maybe I'll get a chance to watch it over the next couple of weeks, and I'll see if I'm convinced. If anyone has watched it, let me know if you're convinced. I did see a good quote from this Bitcoin account, and they said, hey, we are all Satoshi. And my philosophical ass thought that was very philosophical. It was kind of kumbaya. It was this decentralized, notion that we're all Bitcoin. So that's what I'll believe. I believe that we're all Satoshi. I don't know if Peter Todd is Satoshi, but maybe he is. And if he is, maybe he should be embracing it, because I'm assuming he would get a lot more celebrity. But I don't know if that's the type of celebrity you want, because I think Satoshi owns like a lot of Bitcoin, and that might not be the best thing in the world. Robinhood 2460. So we're getting a nice little dip on Robinhood, down about 4%. Palantir really flat, 41.40. The dip we got was 41.22, and then boom, that got eaten up. Right now, back at 41.40. NVIDIA does go red. Alibaba goes red. All right, so entire market is going red outside of Affirm and Roblox. CrowdStrike is kind of green. CrowdStrike almost touching $300. Palo Alto Networks as well got upgraded yesterday. They're at 357. Pretty much everything else is red. Meta's red. SoFi's red. Celsius is up on the day 2%, but they're red a lot for the month. ARM is red. AMD is red, which is normal. We had a really good day yesterday. You would imagine that people take some profits. Reddit got upgraded to $90 from Morgan Stanley. We'll read their increase in a second, but Reddit right here, 73.69. But Reddit did get an upgrade today to about $90. Palantir back in the green at 41.55. Really, Palantir is one of the only green names today. Everything else is taking a bit of a beating. Doug says, could you imagine the tax liability the IRS would hand you if you were confirmed to be Satoshi? Yeah, dude, at the end of the day, the amount of targeting that would be on your back by people to obviously, try to, they're really bad people to cyber hack you, or just people to threaten your life. I mean, I don't think anyone would want that target on their back. And then obviously the IRS would probably want some taxes as well. So I don't know. I don't know if he's Satoshi, but if he is Satoshi, I don't think he would want to embrace it as easily as some people might want to embrace it. But I got to watch the documentary. I got to see if the documentary is reasonable enough to make an argument. What else do we have? Cruise lines are up on the day. Yeah, not sure why cruise lines are up. CCL, it was up 4% yesterday, up another 3% today, so up 7% in the past couple of days. Cruise lines doing okay. I mean, look, Carnival had a great earnings. They deserve to be up, I would say 7 to 10% off those earnings. Market was kind of subdued in the reaction. They did report on one of the worst macro days last week, so that's probably why it was chilled out. But not sure what the short-term catalyst for cruise lines to get some momentum. CrowdStrike 297, Palantir 41.42, Robinhood 24.54, Tesla 240, NVIDIA 132, Affirm 42.06, S&P at 573. The indices are not down dramatically. A lot of individual equities are down 3 to 4%, nothing too crazy. And what's green is Home Depot, Walmart, Berkshire, and Nike. So value stocks and retail stocks getting some green. Everything else getting a little bit of red. Coinbase as well, slightly green on the day as Bitcoin tries to get back up to 62,000. HIMS is down 2%, DocuSign up about 2%, and Palantir 41.43. Palantir basically flat over the past 10 minutes. PayPal is green. PayPal's above 80 now, right? But we're in the 80s era for PayPal. PayPal, yeah, 81. Look at that. 81.65. I mean, this one, options were not the best to buy on this one unless you bought conservative strikes towards 2026. But if you bought the equity below 50 at the beginning of the year, then it's been a winner. It's been a big winner. So this is one of those names where options have not been the best simply because it hasn't had that dramatic of a move. Although if your strikes were at 90 or 85, I mean, the strikes are, you're getting closer. If your strikes were above 100 in 2025, it's a little tougher. But the equity itself, I mean, buying it at 48, 49, 52, 57, that has done pretty damn well for people. Tesla right here, 241, down about 1.2% on the day. I think the market's a bit nervous on Tesla because the 10/10 event, along with every Tesla event, tends to be sell the news. I am of the belief right now it is closer to sell the news than not. So if it is sell the news, then the question is how bad of a sell the news it is. If it's not sell the news, then the question is, what can Elon say that's going to get the market to be like, we have got to buy the stock? Remember, the Tesla's up from 130. It's up 80%. So the news can't just be like robotaxi. The news has got to be something special with Robotaxi, which is what I think it'll be. Now, if it's a party where people are just getting drunk and they invited a bunch of people to have fun, I don't know if that's going to be enough to get the stock to go up. So we're going to need some movement, but if we get it from Tesla, then it'll be good. And look, if we don't get it and it's a really good announcement, but it's not an amazing announcement and we get a nice big dip, then I don't think that's the worst thing in the world either, because that just means you know what's going to come with FSD in the future and you get a chance to load up. But I do think investors are getting sick and tired of waiting. And so this event's going to be one of those events where they're going to have to see some movement. Palantir 41.58 up about 30 bips right now, which is not too bad. Elon tweeted that it's a product launch. Really? Did he tweet that? Let me see on his Twitter. Yeah, watch the Tesla product launch event live on X. Okay, so it's going to be a new product, that's for sure. Again, it's called We Robot. If they announce some crazy stuff with Optimus, that would also be really fun. That would also be very, very fun if that happens. So we'll see if that plays out. We'll see if that plays out as well. Affirm at 42, Roblox at 41, S&P 500 at 573, HIMS at 18, DocuSign at 68, Rocket Lab at $9, Palo Alto at 359 right now. Thoughts on AMD AI event tomorrow? Honestly, I forgot they were having an AI event. I did remember last week that they made that announcement. AMD down about 2%. I don't know, dude. AMD on the technical levels was due for a breakout, which has happened from 140 to 170. I do think 170 is a bit up there in valuation. It's not growing the way NVIDIA grows at all. But maybe this AI event, they're going to announce some new stuff, and that's going to get the market excited, which is why it's also had this move from 140 to 170. Where's Hood right now? Hood is down 5%. All right, so Hood getting a little bit of a beating here. I would imagine Kathy or some insider is selling right here down about 5%, because I just don't think too much retail would say, hey, we're going to sell after seeing it go to 25.60. I mean, maybe there's some retailers taking profits. This seems a little bit more like an institutional sell. And again, for Kathy, she kind of has to sell every time Hood goes up, because it can't be 5% or more of the ETF. Regardless of that, I do think the biggest problem with Hood is that it's incredibly volatile because it's tied to Bitcoin in the market. And so it could have one day of outperformance internally, but that outperformance doesn't last all the time, because obviously if the market goes down, Robinhood's a bull call in the market, even though Robinhood might have an exceptional Q3, because if the market's down, then Q4 might not be that good. So the thesis on Hood has always been this will be a bull market year. And so that thesis still has to play out, but I think you're getting a resemblance based on the price action of Robinhood with that thesis coming to fruition in regards to the broader stock market. And then obviously the internal catalyst, like the event coming up, and obviously the investor day that was announced yesterday. I think that's going to be really cool for Robinhood as well. And I think that's why you've seen a lot of dark pool orders, because the market knows what's coming. It's just a question of having those events play out. Google 165. We'll talk about them in a second. IWM at 217, SMCI at 45.89. Intel is down about 0.23% on the day. Palantir goes back to being green, but it's kind of being stuck at green. So you've got a ton of buyers at 41.50, a ton of sellers at 41.50. You can't really get too much price action to the upside. But even if we close above 41 again for the second day in a row, I don't think anyone would be too upset about that. Or let's look at Enphase. Where's Enphase right now in the context of solar? Enphase is up about 1%. SolarEdge is also up a little bit as well. So solar catching a little bit of a bid. FXI is down 2%. So China down 2% after being down 9% yesterday. Again, someone's got to buy this dip if China's going to recover, and maybe the market's waiting for a little bit more news on stimulus, but so far, no one is really buying the dip. All right, couple of pieces of headlines. So let's go through that. Germany has revised their 2024 GDP forecast to a contraction of 0.2%. So Germany has not grown over the past 5 years. I think the growth was like 0.5%. It's really been nothing. They are now expecting a contraction in their economy of 0.2%. So not the best news for international markets. You don't want to see growth kind of slowing down across the world, but for Germany, that is slowing down. Bank of America, another headline they put out, they are trimming their 2024 EPS to $243 from $250. They write, although 2025 consensus EPS of just 15% may seem higher, real sales growth of just 2.5%, ex Mag 7 against an easy comp of 0.6% in 2024 isn't overly optimistic. So this macro chart, I think, is really important to understand. Outside of the Mag 7, Bank of America is saying, hey, you're probably going to only see growth of 2.5%. With the Mag 7, you see growth of about 15%. So Mag 7 is going to be about 13% of the growth. That's why the Mag 7 earnings going to Q3 are very, very important. So them lowering expectations is good because the companies that report in 2025 are going to have some really tough numbers that they have to beat based on 2024. Robinhood, Palantir, Google, Microsoft, like all these companies put up amazing numbers in the first 3 quarters of this year, or at least I assume the Q3 is going to be really good as well. So the first 3 quarters of 2025, those are going to be tough comps. Those are going to be really tough comps. And so the lowering of expectations basically shows from Bank of America, hey, we're a little cautious that they're not going to be able to beat those comps as much as they can, but we still think they're going to beat somewhat of those comps, Palantir 4150. Therefore, we are broadly bullish on 2025 and the momentum that we can get in 2025 as well. And I think it's not just Bank of America. Jefferies and Goldman Sachs has also said that we expect Q3 of a slowdown on earnings growth, which is kind of bullish because if Q3 isn't that dramatic of a slowdown, that's going to be a big surprise to the markets. It's going to be a big tailwind. But if it just matches expectations and we get CPI to come down, that's also going to be relatively bullish for the broader market. Again, it's a tough comp for 2023 Q3 earnings or 2024, because 2023, you had pretty good Q3 earnings as well. This is a chart that kind of shows what that looks like right now. Cool. Okay. What else do we have right here in some of the headlines? Update on the hurricane. So the hurricane is now Category 5, which is pretty scary. Again, my thoughts and prayers to everyone in Florida. If you can evacuate Florida, it seems like that's the best recommendation to get out of Florida. Palantir right here, 4155. The problem here with this hurricane, now we talked about it yesterday. What impact is that going to have on jobs? What impact is that going to have on inflation? And what impact is that going to have on regional sectors of Florida that affect other parts of the market? So we saw the hurricane in July ended up messing up the jobs report for August. A similar thing could happen again. Now, if it's just based on the hurricane, I think the market's going to be willing to overlook it. But is that going to beg for another rate cut just because we had a hurricane and that kind of messed up some of the economic reports? I don't think so. I think the economy is showing it is so resilient right now. With inflation not reaccelerating, that 25 bips itself is going to be something that the market's going to like, because there's no way in hell right now that we're going to get 50 bips. Whereas last time it was kind of 50-50. Do we get 50 bips? We ended up getting it. It made sense because we should have got the July cut. We just kind of caught up with the July cut. But there is no real reason, in my opinion, to get 50 bips, although I wouldn't hate it unless you think the labor market's dramatically cooling off. And that's not happening right now. We added 254,000 jobs. There's no way J-Powell can justify 50 bips, which is okay. Which is okay because, that might not be the worst thing in the world if we keep rates still normal, but still get a 25 bips cut. But yeah, thoughts and prayers are to anyone. Elaine right here saying my daughter lives in Key West. It does look like it's going to be bad. I actually have this video. Let me show this 30-second video for those that haven't seen the visualization of what it looks like. There are people saying it's going to be worse than Katrina. The impact that's going to have on the election is also a good question, because if everyone has to leave Florida, or a lot of people are displaced from Florida, and they're not going to come back within the next couple of weeks, I would imagine. What does that mean for voting? What does that mean for the election? These are big questions that don't really have answers right now. And it's something that, I don't know if we're going to get those answers anytime soon, but it's going to add more and more uncertainty to the broader market. And that's not the best thing, obviously, for equities. Okay, let me see if I can pull up this video right here. Yeah, here it is. Here's the video. This right here just shows how deadly this hurricane can actually become.
Imagine this. Imagine 3 feet of storm surge right here. Now, if this amount of water catches you by surprise, it's too late to evacuate. Cars are floating around and floating away. There's large objects in here that could knock things down with a battering ram-like force. Now, there's no way, again, to evacuate with this kind of storm surge. But we know there's going to be places with more than 3 feet. Imagine 6 feet of storm surge. Now, this completely floods out the first floors of homes and businesses, and the only way to escape that is to move to the higher floor of a building. Now, unfortunately, there are going to be places that get more than 6 feet of storm surge flooding. Imagine this, 9 feet and even beyond of flooding, of inundation. This is practically not survivable. So please, follow the advice of your local officials when they ask you to evacuate. And if you have any questions about what evacuation zone you're in, If you need to go and or where you need to go to floridadisaster.org. And
floridadisaster.org for those that are in Florida and didn't know about that helpline. It looks kind of scary, dude. I mean, that is one use case for generative AI if that's what they use to make this thing. But to be under this type of pressure when it comes to water on you, I mean, you wouldn't wish that on anyone. And it's something that's definitely going to have an impact. So notice what has happened as we get into the end of the year, right? We've got all these little black swans popping up. You got Iran, Israel that escalated a bit this month. You got the port strikes that have been resolved. That was an issue. You've now got a Category 5 hurricane after a hurricane we just had 2 weeks ago around the same area in the South, particularly in Florida. It's just, and then to the upside, you had, I don't want to say this is a black swan, but that jobs report, it changes everything in terms of rate cut projections because you just cannot cut by 50 bips if you're adding 150,000 more jobs than what the market expected. And so ending out, and then you've got the election. So ending out this year is not going to be easy. And I have been under the impression that it's definitely going to be a hurdle to get through the rest of the year with a stock market that maintains its momentum. I know a lot of analysts are calling for S&P 6,000. I do think that is possible. I don't think the recession argument has a ton of merits, but I still think it has some merits. And so could we have a recession in the next 2 months? And most of the bears were right that the end of the 2024 would be horrible. Yeah. Do I think it's likely? Not really, but all these black swans compounding on each other could lead to more macro uncertainty, which could that result in a recession? I don't think so, but it is possible, right? And so I think we still have to figure out. We still have to figure out how this kind of happens over the next few months. I do think if Q3 earnings don't disappoint across the board, the market is still going to buy equities. And here's another thing that's really, really important, dude. The most bearish argument I've seen from people is that literally someone yesterday was saying this is worse than 2021 in terms of euphoria and momentum in the markets. And this is an absolute top, yada, 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 yada. In my head, anytime I hear someone say that, the cruise is right, by the way, Carnival Cruise up 3.2%, Palantir 41.42, I think, wait a second. In 2021, you did not have 4.5% of a yield and 4% on the 10-year nagging for your money. Meaning equities are competing with a risk-free return, which until a couple of weeks ago was 5.5%, which makes it really hard for equities to go up. Same thing for Palantir. Everyone that's saying Palantir is the same as 2021. When Palantir got to $41 back in 2020, have interest rates where your money could get a risk-free return sitting on the sidelines. Same thing with the 10-year. The 10-year, I think right here is at 4% today, but it ticked up to 4% yesterday. So for all the people saying it's euphoria like 2021, I think there's nothing like 2021 because in order to have that 2021 euphoria, stocks have to be the only place where you can put your money or crypto. That's just not the case. Logically, that's not the case. Also, by the way, markets have had a pretty good October so far. We haven't had like a deadly October yet. We'll see what happens. But this week is supposed to be one of the worst weeks of October so far. Not too crazy. Money market funds increased by $200 billion in the first 2 weeks after rate cuts. And the stock market is still maintaining its momentum. So I think when you put all of that together, it just leaves for a very bullish macro landscape with money that will eventually come back in after Q3 earnings do well and after we get another string of rate cuts. But it is nothing like the euphoria in 2021 where money had nowhere to go outside of the stock market and crypto and NFTs, which is what led to that bubble. Could 2025 be some massive recession if valuations get crazy? Yeah. But again, valuations are up there right now. I don't think they're so insane that you can't justify them with Q3 earnings. And we're going to get Q3 earnings and kind of see how the market then decides to price a lot of these equities as well. But that's what we got in the context of the Florida hurricane. And again, thoughts and prayers to anyone who is in Florida. It's just a crazy thing if that's going to be as bad as some of the hurricanes that we've had in the past. NVIDIA right here, 132, down about 0.4. Tesla down about 1.26%. S&P basically flat on the day, 573. Palantir also green, but flat at 41.50. Robinhood down about 4.5%, 24.45, but above 24, which is nice to see. Close above 24.50 would be good. PayPal, 81.75. Alibaba recovering a little bit. It was down 4%. Now it's down 2%. So that's not horrible. And then you got Roblox right here getting bought up from that dip yesterday when Hindenburg decided to short Roblox. What else do we have? SoFi needs to break 850. Yeah, SoFi got a sell rating yesterday by one of their analysts from Compass Point for $4. I haven't read the price target or the report yet, but he's one of the guys who really dives deep into like SoFi's balance sheet and fair value accounting and all that stuff. $8.50. Do I think it deserves to be worth $4 and get literally zero multiple? And by the way, how did he get that $4 price target? I said the tangible book value a couple of days ago was $3.92. SoFi is trading on a healthy price to tangible book value right now at $8.50, which is why he's saying, hey, if it's a bank, you shouldn't value it more than, forget a premium multiple, but like a very basic multiple in terms of price to tangible book, which would put it closer to $4. So that is the ongoing debate on, is it a bank? Is it a tech company? And I think we're going to have to see how that plays out in the coming quarters when they announce their guidance. My SoFi options are, I bought them for 35 cents. They are currently worth, I think, about 40 cents right now. I think yesterday they were worth like 45 cents. They're worth 43 cents right now. So we're up like 17% on that, which is not too bad. But again, that is my kind of asymmetric risk exposure to SoFi for the rest of the year. And we'll see kind of how SoFi plays out. Yeah, those are up 22%. So those are up 22% from 35 to 42. Who the hell is Compass Point? It's some dude. I forgot his name, dude. I forgot the guy's name, but he's been having a $4 price target for a long time. I forgot his name, but he does not believe in SoFi's accounting methods, and that's kind of how he gets to that level. Snowflake's up 2%. Snowflake, again, I'm not a fan of the company, but it is technically oversold. So I could see Snowflake going up 2%. I mean, dude, it's down 45% for the year. Still going to do about $4 billion in revenue. Stocks tend to get bought up if they're still producing results, even if the underlying business is not the healthiest. And the $2 billion convertible note offering, good for Snowflake, not good for shareholders. But now that's done. That's baked in. And then, it's a question of, hey, can they get profitable? Can they reduce stock-based comp? Again, it's a weird narrative to bet on long-term, but if you're trading it and it's down 40%, you could argue that, hey, fundamentals suck, but I want to get some price action in. That's why it's getting some momentum right now, up about 2.3% on the day. Robinhood 24.58, SoFi 8.54, Enphase at 105, Palantir 41.51, still holding up at that 41 level. And NVDA at 132. Notice how NVIDIA is not moving and Palantir is basically not moving. I can't believe yesterday I missed it. I think the reason Palantir went up yesterday is because NVIDIA surged 4%. And NVIDIA's flat on the day, not giving up any of its gains from yesterday. Palantir is basically flat from the day as well, not giving up any of its gains from yesterday. So maybe both of them are starting to move a little bit more in tandem currently right now. SoFi released 2 new credit cards. Was that this morning? Did they do that? Interesting. We can take a look at some of those credit cards. Yeah, SoFi launches. Okay, I got the PR. Let's look at this. SoFi launches. What is this? SoFi launches Everyday Cash Rewards and SoFi Essential. SoFi Everyday Cash Rewards is a credit card designed for those who prioritize earning rewards on their daily spending. 3% unlimited cash back on dining out at restaurants. 2% unlimited cash back on grocery stores. 1% unlimited cash back on all other eligible purchases. And then the SoFi Essential card is a reliable credit line for those folks on building or improving credit scores. Okay, so SoFi Essential credit card is for those that are just getting into their credit journey. And SoFi Everyday Cash Rewards is for people that have a bit more healthier credit that are probably going to pay back their balances. And they're getting 3%, 2%, or 1% cash back based on different things that they announce. Not bearish, but I don't know, dude. It's just one of those things where, again, this has always been my broader problem with SoFi. It's like Robinhood's doing 3% across the board. How do you compete with that? Right? Like, how do you compete with that? Like, seriously, how do you compete? Like, if someone's thinking between Robinhood and SoFi, why would they not do 3% across the board versus SoFi 3% if you shop at, if you go to a restaurant? Like, it's one of the, it's again, good for SoFi. I don't know what the tailwind of that creates for the broader business, especially if their credit card's already not been profitable for them. So the only press release I want from SoFi, quite frankly, the only press release I want is Galileo or Technisys doing something that we haven't seen in the past. And if that could happen, Robinhood 24.67, then I get more excited because the tech side of the business starts to get momentum. Until then, a lot of this other stuff is good. It's just not super exciting, It's just not super exciting. Again, my logic on SoFi is rate cuts are bullish for them. particularly for lending. So I kind of don't care about the credit card business. I care about lending. And if rate cuts happen and lending continues to increase, then I think we should see more momentum from SoFi. But that is the credit card update we have right now. 850 up about 1.07% on the day. It's like comparing 100 models of Huawei versus one well-done model of iPhone, Robinhood. Yeah. And ironically, Robinhood actually joked around at their press event for the gold card that they were going to unveil 3 credit cards. And then they ended up unveiling 1 card because 3 credit cards is kind of stupid because like who like it's just not user oriented, dude. Like you don't want 3 different variations of something. You want one thing that's unified in an ecosystem. And they just understand product and user experience way better than every company. And so that's why I think that is, relatively bullish for Robinhood. Palantir right here at 41.49, NVDA at 132, Alibaba still down about 2% on the day. Amit, check out Cruise Lines. Hey, Kris, I have a better idea. Can I call you on WhatsApp? And can you talk to me about the markets? Now, I don't know if my phone can handle calling you and giving me a hotspot. Maybe it can. But let me know, Kris, if you're free. I can only call you on WhatsApp. Although I did get an eSIM, so I do have internet everywhere in India, but I don't know if I can call Kris with my eSIM. But let's see. All right, Kris, I'm gonna give you a call. I don't know how good it's gonna be on the Wi-Fi. So if it breaks out, guys, then it breaks out. But let's see if we can do it. Let's see if it's not too bad. Okay, Kris, giving you a call right now. If I can find your name. Where's your name? Right here. Okay, here we go. Calling you. All right, guys, let's see. Let's see if the hotspot can handle this. If so, this is pretty damn good internet service I got here.
Hey, dude, what's going on?
Kris, what's up? Can you hear me?
Yeah, perfectly.
Okay, cool. First of all, thank you for joining. This is your first market open from India, so excited to have you on the show.
How's the motherland treating you, man?
The motherland's great. I'm seeing cows and dogs, and it's just almost getting killed in the rickshaws, but it's fun. It's fun. It's fun being here.
Right.
When's the last time you were in India?
About I think 2 years ago. I was there for like my wife's cousin's wedding.
Okay, cool. All right, so let's start off with China. Obviously, I know that's a big thing going on in the markets right now. You are bullish China. What are you thinking about what's going on in China? Are you buying the dip on China, and kind of how do you think this plays out?
I'm tapped out of capital right now, so I'm not touching any more China. Like I'm pretty fully invested in them. I will say I do feel like a little bit of an idiot because I bought at pretty much like an RSI top, thinking that the meeting that they were going to have, like the next day, was going to be like where they would announce fiscal stimulus, but it didn't actually happen that way. But last night they kind of announced that on Saturday is when they're actually going to be announcing how much fiscal stimulus they're going to be doing. And so I'm still long China. Luckily, I'm pretty long out on my options. And I'm also long out with ETFs that aren't leveraged. So it's definitely painful to see, especially I had a good amount of gains for the last couple of weeks get evaporated over the course of 24 to 48 hours, but that's how investing works sometimes. So
do you think they're waiting for the election because they're afraid Trump's policies are going to erase the stimulus effects that they're trying to deploy?
I'm not so sure. I think their biggest challenge is they're hitting growth issues, right? So they've got deflationary headwinds all over the place. They've got overcapacity. And all of a sudden now you've kind of have a world that's deglobalizing. And, they're an export-led economy. So it's hard for them to kind of switch it up a little bit and change to a more consumer-based economy. So if this is one of those things that's going to be a growing pain. The one thing that I don't think people really appreciate is just how much cash Chinese consumers have in the banks, right? Literally Chinese consumers are flush with cash. So over the last couple of weeks, you saw this early monetary push, so monetary stimulus come down the pipe. So a lot of people really started to go in heavy in the stock market and kind of it kind of ran up a little bit, and now it's kind of pulling back, and which is healthy. Like you typically want to see these pullbacks because that's what like causes like a more natural progression anyway. But the fiscal side wasn't delivered in the timely manner that the market was expecting. It doesn't mean it's not coming. It didn't come right away, which probably like set some like fears off, because China's been known in the past to basically do a lot of talking, but they haven't necessarily followed through with some of the stimulus measures that they were originally like really, really adamant on. So it's kind of like one of those things where so many people have been rug pulled for the last like few years that I don't think China could honestly afford another rug pull. Because after that, they would lose the confidence of the general markets and pretty much every investor within China and also outside of it. So whatever fiscal stimulus that they're going to be doing on Saturday, like they're going to announce, it better be freaking big. And I'm talking about probably 2 to 3 to maybe even 4 trillion yuan worth of fiscal stimulus going into next week. So that should hopefully help Chinese stocks like bounce back sometime next week. So like I said, I'm not holding my breath, but at the same time, like I'm just I am technically holding my breath. What am I saying? Like, yeah, so this is one of those things that's like it's a calculated bet on what direction the market is going to move and how their leadership is going to react. And I think they'll do the right thing.
So, Kris, I was going to ask you about the cruise lines, but I got to ask you about this because I don't know if you're the reason, but someone's the reason. It wasn't going up until you started talking. Palantir's at $42.18. So it just broke $42 right now. And so the chat is saying to keep you on the phone because that is the reason we got to 42. I mean, what do you think? What's the logic? What's happening right now?
I don't know, man. And it could be a combination of retail euphoria kind of jumping in a little bit. I know everyone is really stoked on Palantir. I even got a little bit of lampooning yesterday by Arnie and Emir, basically saying I didn't know what I was talking about. And, I was basically I was generalizing too much and I wasn't analyzing the company properly. And, one of these days when you get back, maybe we'll actually have like a Palantir weekly where we do more like deeper dive into why structurally Palantir from a risk reward standpoint is not the most ideal investment to be in right now, and like I said, everything is about risk and reward. Like I used to invest purely based on market go up, market go down, but it's more now I realize it's more about risk. So the question is Palantir more likely to get to 80 or is it more likely to get back to like the 30s and the 20s, and what would be the catalyst in either direction? So let's say next quarter they come out and say, oh, we grew our, top line by 40%. Now Palantir would end up going to like the 60s and 70s. The problem is it's hard to replicate again. So
you think if they grow 40%, $60, $70, even after this 140% gain this year is possible?
Look at what happened to NVDA, right? So I think I got NVIDIA wrong for that specific reason where I didn't think that the demand was as high as it ended up being. But the data, like I said, the data changed. I don't feel as confident regarding Palantir with that. I think a lot of the increases in revenue that they had over the last couple of quarters have primarily been driven by a combination of just weak comp numbers from last year, and also the introduction of these boot camps. And Palantir really hustled hard the last year. You went to a couple of these boot camps, so you know exactly how hard that they were hustling. The thing is, eventually, I think they're going to run out of small and medium-sized businesses with regards to these pilots. And if the pilots don't translate into long-term tangible revenue, then that could be something that ends up impacting their growth rate in the future. So, it's something to just keep in mind. And, I'd say we'd probably just have to be very like data dependent. Right now, the wins are behind Palantir. The one thing I will say, and this is something that I don't know, eventually maybe you guys on Palantir Weekly can address, which is why the compensation plan for Palantir keeps changing. So their 10-5B plans, they keep changing them. So as an example, their what's his name? One of their directors, his compensation plan changed in March, and basically now he has stock options that expire in 2030 that he actually I think what's his name, Ryan Taylor or whatever. He basically exercised them for $4 and then sold them in the open market for 40. So if he thought that, hey, the stock was going to go to like X, Y, and Z, why would he exercise them way early? I'm talking about 6 years early. So
because the stock's at 40, so he's up 10x on it, right? He probably is taking some gains like that. That's I don't know if that's the biggest concern.
It is a concern when the entire board is doing it, And the thing is, they're all decreasing their ownership levels, while at the same time the number of shares keeps growing and growing. So I think a lot of people are very happy to see like the gap net income, but they really need to work on the dilution. If they don't work on the dilution, then pretty much it tells me that they're basically going to have this moment where they can raise as much capital, each of them, and then they can just kind of ride out the wave, in which case, if things go down, then, Karp and Thiel and all these guys, they might have the liquidity to buy back into Palantir if, the price drops low enough or something. I don't know. Like, I've seen this happen in a couple of other Peter Thiel companies where he's taken them public. They've gone parabolic and they've sold a bunch of shares in the open market, and then the price of the assets collapsed, or the company collapses, and then these guys pretty much buy back their ownership stakes at a heavy discount. So It's just one of those. I mean, I wouldn't call that stock manipulation. I would just say it's one of those. What's the word? It's one of those things where I don't even describe it. It's just savvy business. Like right now, would you blame Karp if he sold half of his stake at $40 and that thing retraces back down to 20 and then he buys back doubled his share count and now he owns even more of the company?
No, that'd be pretty smart. But I think they've generally de-risked over time, and they sold at they were selling at $7, right? Because they've been in this company for 20 years. So to me, it's just a question of one of the things my uncle told me yesterday is if the underlying business performs, the deep liquidity of the public markets will reward the business. And they, quite frankly, they don't give a fuck about the insiders. And Jensen sold $800 million worth of NVIDIA in the past 2 months. No one cares. Because if NVIDIA keeps executing, there's always going to be a buyer for NVIDIA. The question becomes, is there a correlation between Jensen selling and Blackwell not doing well? And if your argument is Karp and Thiel selling is a indication that Palantir won't do well, I guess we'll find out, right, in the next few quarters. But
it's not just. Well, the thing is, I could understand maybe Karp a little bit to a certain degree, but Thiel doesn't really need the money like that, as far as I know. And the thing is, Thiel is a capital allocator. He's a shrewd business guy. So even he probably is looking at the valuation and saying, hold on a second, I need to take some chips off the table. So this way I can redeploy that money in other places too, So like I said, these people, the one thing I'll always say is I think we need to stop thinking of these people as some kind of benevolent, omnissiahs that are out there trying to save everyone. And instead, remember, they're capitalists. They didn't get into a position of power because they were here to do charity work. They don't do charity. Alex Karp is not doing charity. You don't become a billionaire by doing charity. You get to that stage by being prudent with your ownership stakes, with also how you're going to set up your cap tables and all the other stuff that goes along with it. So,
All right, Kris, thanks for joining the show. I will probably call you next week when we do the market open as well and keep going. Quick last thoughts, 30 seconds. CPI tomorrow. You think it's good or bad?
I think the market's kind of over CPI. We're more focused now on unemployment. So I think unemployment is probably the main driver between what we're going to be doing, So right now you keep seeing these strong labor reports come out, which means that the Fed is reacting to that. So I think inflation at this point, even if it climbs a little bit or drops a little bit, it's on the right trajectory.
Right.
That's not necessarily going to impact markets nearly as much. Like I said, labor is probably the bigger driver at this point. And based on that, the Fed will, move up, down, left, right. The thing that I'd probably keep a track of is that 10-year treasury and the bounce back in the 10-year treasury to now being around 4% yield. One of the reasons for that is because if you look at the summary of economic projections, they kind of show that the federal funds rate is probably going to be closer to about a 3%. And so because of that, the 10-year usually trades at a premium. So you're looking at a 10-year between 4 and 4.25, maybe 4.5 as a neutral rate for the 10-year. So a lot of the people that had TLT and everything else at 375, they were kind of a little bit overexposed to that. So so I'd keep an eye on, because I know a lot of people are still kind of like they're still holding their TLT position, hoping that we get a reversal, and we just might get a reversal eventually if the economy starts to falter and the Fed has to revise some of their projections and materially go lower for their terminal federal funds rate to maybe like 2 and maybe even 1.5 if we get into like a deflationary environment.
Yeah.
So yeah.
All right. Good stuff. Thank you, Kris. Appreciate it. We'll talk to you later.
Take care.
Bye. All right, folks. You know what we got to do? There's this bell that has not been rung. Ladies and gentlemen, we have hit $42 a share for Palantir. Yesterday I was rewatching the stream and someone in the comments said people are going to think Amit's doing a praying ceremony because in India, like literally my grandmother this morning was ringing the bell when she was praying. Usually you pray in the morning and you ring a bell. And so I'm pretty sure all the people in this hotel probably think that I'm praying, which is good because maybe they won't complain that there's noise. They'll be like, oh, he's praying. It's normal. So maybe that's what's happening right now. $42.41. I'm speechless. I'm speechless. I was speechless yesterday. I'm speechless today. 42 is the answer to everything, apparently. And that's what we got going on right now. I don't think I'll be able to leave India because the amount of messages, like literal DMs I got yesterday from people saying, stay in India because the reason Palantir is going up $1 every day is because you're in India. Maybe the 15 hours in the middle seat was for this reason, to get this reward, which is Palantir at $42 freaking dollars. Coming up right before my birthday in a couple weeks. Maybe that's the reason, but I don't know, dude. I don't know how to explain it. And the fact that I'm making a joke out of, hey, I had to travel to India for Palantir to go to 42, that's just because of how absurd this price action is to the upside, because I can't explain the price action. By the way, that whole NVIDIA thesis I had on Palantir, well, that's not working out that well. NVIDIA's up 0.44%. Palantir's up 2.24%. I mean, like, unless Palantir's trading at an alpha against NVIDIA, then I don't know, but I don't know, bro. I don't know what is happening. Arnie says, like the stream if you want Amit to stay in India. Yeah, like the stream if I've got to stay in India for this. By the way, shout out to Arnie. Arnie, we just did our podcast yesterday. Arnie, I think, just tweeted he is officially up 5x on his Palantir shares. He has been holding these shares since 7 and 6. I don't think Arnie, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think you bought when it was like 25, 26 in 2021. I know a lot of us did. I definitely did. And so we had to average down. Arnie, I think legit, like, just got the Sorry. I think Arnie legit just like got the bottom. And because he got the bottom, he's been able to obviously benefit a lot from getting the bottom. And so that is amazing for Arnie and his personal portfolio. Take a look at that right there. It's a 5-bagger on his shares, up $228,000 for Arnie. That was a mic drop. It was Arnie being up 5x on Palantir was a mic drop. So Arnie said, no, I bought in at 10 and 20 and bought back since Putin attacked. Oh, he bought at 10 in 2020 and then he started buying when Putin attacked at $10 again. It's incredible, dude. Arnie's just a regular guy. He's just a regular guy. A lot of people, and I think that's the beauty of Palantir. A lot of people are just regular people that saw something special in this company. Arnie's a regular guy who started sharing his thoughts about the company over the past couple of years. And again, if you watch the podcast I did with him yesterday, he'll talk about his journey of covering Palantir. But regular people, not the biggest Wall Street hedge fund managers in the world, are quite frankly getting rich off this stock. And so this is pretty freaking incredible in the context of what's happening right now. 42.45 on Palantir, up 2.4%. Robinhood trying to make a little bit of recovery right here, down 3.5% at 24.71. It was down about 5%. 42.43. Now let me check the resistance for 43. Let me check the resistance for 43 because, again, in the words of Gordon Gekko, greed is good, and it is insane to say maybe we hit 43, but we're only 60 cents away, so why the hell not? 43 is... Dude, what is going on here? 43 is 2,000 shares away. Like, there is, like... Look at this shit, dude. Look at this. There is... Look at the green side to the red side. The green side is sell side pressure. The red side... buy side pressure. Red side is sell side. There is a massive amount of green, meaning if we were to get any dips, it's going to get bought up and bought up and bought up at every 10 cent increment that it falls below from 42. I mean, this is just incredible. Dinesh says next resistance is 48 and 50. You know, I think you're actually right on that, because now another thing, we've been talking about this since 38, is the volume self-resistance on Palantir is like non-existent, because we haven't seen these levels on Palantir for 3 years. And so there's a very good shot that we can break new all-time highs and keep break 52-week highs and keep breaking it, because there's just more buyers and very little sell side pressure as we go higher. Also, here's the big question: who wants to sell, right? Like, after a run like this, if you understand even like 5% of the Palantir thesis, and you don't think it's like some company that's full of shit that's pumping for no reason, who are the sellers? Who really wants to sell? That is Robinhood. Yes, that is Robinhood. That is Robinhood's order book flow. You don't have to use Robinhood to get it. I use Robinhood because it costs $5 a month and it's easy, but it's included in gold. But I think NASDAQ, a bunch of other websites have it, but I use Robinhood to make it easy. Like, who wants to sell, bro? Like, I mean, and I think this is the better question on Palantir than kind of speculating on some of the idiosyncratic stuff. Is like, does the valuation make any sense at $95 billion? By the way, we're $5 billion away from being worth $100 billion. Probably not. But is there a market premium that is willing to be paid based on a variety of reasons? Yeah. And those reasons have to do with CARP and the ontology and Western values, and I can go on and on and on, but someone's willing to buy these shares. And I don't think you can go from 30 to 42, much less 37 to 42 in 5 days on retail. I just refuse to believe that, dude. I refuse to believe retail every day is moving something that has 2.2 billion shares outstanding. I don't believe it. I just don't believe it. And maybe I'm dead wrong on this, but if that's the case, I think we're in for a fun ride, because I don't think the institutions are easily going to sell. Now, covered calls here, I don't think are crazy. On January, the January covered call for 60. Oh my God, dude. The January covered call is willing to pay you $1 for 60 strike. Volume has been 360 that have been traded so far today on that. For the covered call. The 45 covered call is willing to pay you $4.15 for January 2025. This is just unbelievable, dude. The $50 covered call is willing to pay you $2.53. Remember, I was on the phone with my friend who's up $100 million on Palantir, which now it should be up about $145 million. I got to text him, dude. I got to see what he's thinking, because he must be like staring at his portfolio. Maybe he's watching the stream because like it's like, we were thinking of selling, or he was thinking, he consulted me. He was like, hey, what do you think about selling covered calls when the stock was at 36 for $40? Or I think it was for $50 when the stock was 36 for January 2025, which is a 30% move going into January 2025. If we had sold calls that day, again, I don't know if we get to 50 by January 2025, but those covered calls would have been under pressure. And it's like, you don't think those covered calls should have been under pressure, but literally you had a $5 move, which means those covered calls would have been closer to his shares being taken away than him keeping his shares. And it's just insane to think that at 37, a covered call would have gone as bad, but at 42, that's the reality of what we're looking at right now. So look, I know a lot of people had $40 covered calls. They thought those were safe. Doesn't seem like those are safe. You're going to have to experimenting with rolling. You might have to pay a debit to roll out of that to keep the shares. Now, look, the sucky thing is if you pay a debit to keep the shares and then Palantir tanks 50%, then you're going to feel really stupid, because you could have just rolled for a net credit and then exited the covered call off the 50% tank. The question becomes, do we get a 50% tank? Do we even get a 20 to 25% tank? I don't know. So the safe thing is to roll it, buy yourself some more time, maybe pay a small debit, and then roll out of it in the future by extending your strike so that the roll on the next or the getting out of the covered call on the next the next expiration isn't as bad as this one. There are ways to navigate it. I don't think it's the craziest thing in the world, but even that $50 covered call that my friend was gonna sell on his Palantir, it's one of those things that would have been under trouble. So pretty insane. Austin says my 40 covered calls are getting smoked, but I was okay losing them. Well, here's another question, right? Are you okay losing your shares at 40? I mean, that's another thing we don't talk about enough with covered calls. If your shares get called away, are you okay with losing them? There was another guy on Twitter who sold December 55 covered calls on 100,000 shares. So he got $55,000 in premium. And he thinks 55 is pretty safe for December. I think it's pretty safe too. But if we keep going up $1 every day and I keep staying my ass in India, maybe 55. Dude, 55 would be what? 55 would be 120 billion market cap, something like that. The market at this point for Q2, what are they expecting? Like, what type of revenue are they expecting? Because if they're expecting something that's like just on like $1 billion in revenue, we're not going to get $1 billion in revenue, or maybe we do. And if we do, we're going to the freaking moon if that happens, but that's probably not happening. So what are they expecting? Let me check right now. The earnings for Palantir, the market is expecting $703 million in revenue, which would be 25% growth. For the price action we've seen in the past 2 weeks, 25% growth probably is not justifying that. So I would imagine Palantir is going to beat that. I hope 30%, but if it's 30%, is that what the market's fine with? Does the market need 35%? I don't know. I think no one knows at this point. We are in such uncharted territories that we kind of don't have any understanding of it. The S&P, is the S&P at all-time highs right now? S&P is not at all-time highs. S&P all-time high is 577, not 574. We hit 575 a while ago. It was 570. No, it's 575. Oh yeah, it's 575. I guess we had 577 in pre-markets on one of these days. That's why I thought. So we're at 574.28. So we are very close to all-time highs on the S&P. That's also probably helping Palantir. SoFi having a good day. SoFi is up 2%. So that's sell rating by the $4 target dude. That didn't really hurt SoFi too much. It's up 2% right now. Palantir 42.60. I mean, is it crazy to go to 43? I don't know. Uncharted, not uncharted. Okay, I said that wrong. I'm sorry. Also, yesterday, dude, you know how I said I'm going to get a jet and I'm going to call it Netflix because I'm done with commercials? I realized from your comments that Netflix does indeed have commercials. So yeah, I watched the comments back on that, and let's just say I didn't feel like the smartest guy in the world because I thought it was a good line, dude. I really thought it was a good line. That's what I get for stealing a rapper's line who made that song in 2017 with that lyric when Netflix did not have commercials. And now I think I'm smart using that line. And then I realized, wait a second, Netflix has ads. Like it makes no sense. Like it just doesn't make sense. But still, it was, if we assume Netflix didn't have commercials, it was a pretty good lyric. It wasn't a bad lyric. I have a question. Is Palantir's ontology patented? Yes. If you go to the U.S. Trademark Patent Office on like Google, just type it in U.S. Trademark Patent and then type in Palantir. You're gonna see like thousands of patents for Palantir. So yeah, that is definitely patented. I don't know if the patents matter that much, dude. Software patents are never like that important at the end of the day, but it's not about the patents. It's about actually spending the 20 years to build it. Like forget the patents. For a company to actually say, hey, we're going to build something that is similar to an ontological structure of data that Palantir's built, like good freaking luck, buddy. And that's basically what Sham said on CNBC yesterday. It's just like, it's not easy to do that. And if it's not easy to do that, then, Palantir has a definitive moat. The question becomes, yes, they have a definitive moat. Is the moat worth $100 billion with $2.7 billion in revenue? And I think that's what the market's trying to figure out. And so far, the market says, yes, it is worth that much. And who am I to disagree with Mr. Market, especially when Mr. Market wants to be very friendly to a company that I really care about. So far, the market is being friendly. The market is agreeing that ontology is a moat. I think that is the only reason we're getting bought up right now. Like, I think it's institutional ownership, but I think it's institutional ownership based on this idea of the ontology. And again, the ontology being a prerequisite to making LLMs useful, which again, NVIDIA means nothing if the LLMs don't materialize in real ROI. That's why Jensen was talking to a bunch of investors yesterday in New York City, trying to get them to actually understand where the AI ROI is going to come from. And he probably said it's going to come from the software sector. And if it's going to come from the software sector, that's Palantir, in my opinion. And so I think that's why Palantir is getting bid up right now. Tesla right here, 246, up about 1%. Roblox, 4147, that's up right now. QQQ, 490. Nice to see that one. Hitting 490. CrowdStrike at 295. Rocket Lab at 942. And you got Palantir right here at 4252. SoFi, 856. Robinhood down 3.2%, 2478. S&P again, closing in on those all-time highs. Palantir 42.49 right now on the day. Should I roll now or later for a Palantir covered call at 39.50 for 10.18? Okay, so I want to do an example with you guys to walk you through my thought process. I just need my phone to load up the Robinhood app because it's been really slow on my phone. All right, so I'm looking at it right now. So October 18th, you have a $39.50 covered call. That is currently going for $3.20. Now, I don't know your cost basis. I don't know how much you paid for that, but you have to make good on the 320, right? And so let's say we just look to December 20th. December 20th, rolling from that to 45, you would make a net credit of 10 cents. So $10, which is not crazy. You're going from $39.50 to 45. You're increasing your strike by $5.50, and you're not losing any money. Now, the question is Palantir going to be below 45 by December 20th? I don't know. You don't know, but I think that's reasonable. This is why I was saying in the beginning of the stream that if you have these covered calls from 35 to 40, I think they're somewhat manageable. Let's get more aggressive. Let's say you wanted to roll to a $50 strike by December 20th. That is going for 185. The covered call currently is at 325 minus 1.85. You would have to pay $1.40, so $140 a contract. So let's say you have 10 contracts. You would have to pay about $1,400 to roll to qualify for $11 more of capital appreciation. So 11 times 100, you would qualify for $1,100 more on capital appreciation by paying $1,400. And if your cost basis is obviously much below 39, then you have a lot more compounding on your cost basis. So yeah, you're gonna have to pay some debits to get out of it. But if you're a little bit less conservative, meaning instead of a 50 strike, a 45 strike or a 43 strike by December, by November, you can still get away with a net credit on rolling. And then maybe Palantir retraces over the next few months and it normalizes back into that 35-40 range. That's one scenario. The other scenario, this bad boy busts through 45 to 50, and then your covered calls, you're just going to have to roll them up into 2025 and navigate them as it goes forward from there. And again, if you have a covered call, let me say this again, because I think this is really important on a day like this. If you have a covered call that it's underwater and you think you are an idiot or you feel stupid about it, please do not get into that toxic mindset. Not a lot of people thought, including myself, Palantir would double in 3 months. People didn't think that. And so you're not supposed to put covered calls on an asset that is going up vertically. The problem is Palantir was not going up vertically. Palantir was relatively flat for months at a time. Remember, we went all the way up to 25, then we came right back to 20, then we went to 27, then we came right back to 20. So, the covered calls I don't think is the worst thing to feel bad about. It's just a question of navigating it now. If we believe that we're not going to get those $30 prices again, which maybe we will, maybe we won't, because then you're not going to be able to buy out of that covered call for cheap or maybe close the position for cheap. But I've known people that were in covered calls when Palantir was 18, they sold them at 22, and then they rolled them for literally 7 months, and they got their opportunity to get out of it without having to lose money. So I think the covered call is a very effective strategy. I think if you see near-term catalysts, it's stupid to sell the covered call, which is why I don't have covered calls on Robinhood, because I just see near-term catalysts, and so I would rather go long-dated than in the near term. And on Palantir, I know a lot of people, like my dad, sold a covered call when it was $20 for December at 40 because he didn't think it would get to 40 in December. Well, we're here in October, and so now we got to navigate it. But I wouldn't, feel that upset about it or, think you're a stupid investor because you did that, because I think you did a pretty reasonable thing. It's just Palantir became unreasonable for a good reason this year. And it is what it is. Worst case scenario, you got to buy out those covered calls and you get to keep the capital appreciation, which is not a bad thing at all. Someone says I've been rolling 50 or rolling 0.50s a week since 38. Yeah, I think that's fair. I think a lot of people probably resonate with that. It hasn't doubled in 3 months. Yeah, you get what I'm saying, dude. It's gone up a lot this year. I might be wrong on the numbers, but it has gone completely crazy. It has. Well, no, technically you're wrong, dude. It has doubled in 3 months. August 5th, it was 20. Last time I checked, 20 to 40 is a double, and we're at 42. So we've actually more than doubled in 3 months, Mr. Bayray. So I believe you're incorrect on that one. Sorry, math sucks. But August 5th doesn't count. August 5th actually does count, even though $20 lasted for like 40 minutes. But it does count. I think we normalized on August 5th at around 23. And then people forget we had earnings on August 5th. And then we jumped up to 29. So August 5th did count as a day. But it was a pretty fast day because it ended up going pretty quick. 42.30 right here on Palantir. So we're still holding above 42, which is not bad. Robinhood 24.62, SoFi at 8.50, Snowflake at 1.16. Carnival Cruise up about 5% on the day. Walmart is up 0.48%. Airbnb up 0.63. And then you got Palantir at 42.27. Let me see on Twitter what people are saying about Palantir. How are they thinking about this one? And are there any updates that we have on Palantir? No, nothing too crazy. Well, okay, so let me show you guys this. This is one of the tweets that pissed Arnie off this morning. We were talking about it. This is the problem, dude. This is what this guy tweeted. Palantir is $96 billion market cap, and then a picture of him throwing someone throwing the Intelligent Investor, which is a really good investing book, in the trash. And so the argument here is that, Palantir is just not justified to be $96 billion, and you are an unintelligent investor if you believe that Palantir deserves to be $96 billion. I think that these are the type of people that are very salty, and if they're very salty, then they're going to have a very, very high cholesterol, because that's what happens when you're very salty. Your cholesterol goes up. And I just thought of that analogy on the spot, and I'm very proud of myself because I think that that makes up for the Netflix analogy mess up that I had yesterday. So I think that when you have a high cholesterol, sometimes you get too excited, right? And you want to tweet these memes. You want to try to get clickbait attention. You want to be the center of attention. But the thing is, when you have a high cholesterol, you're supposed to stop eating the salt. You're supposed to become less salty. That doesn't mean you have to buy Palantir. That doesn't mean you have to become the world's greatest dietitian, but that does mean you have to reduce some of your salt exposure. And so I think these people, in all seriousness, they're just so upset that the stock is run that they can't reconcile. There are legitimate reasons. This is not fucking GameStop. And anyone who says that is an absolute moron. It's just not the case. It's just not the case. And you can give them use case after use case, video after video, AIPCon after AIPCon. Is the valuation stressed at 42? Yes. You're not gonna get a no, it's undervalued at 42 from me. But do you have to be that salty about it because you think it's deeply overvalued, as if stocks have not been deeply overvalued before and have stayed overvalued for a long time? No, I think you're eating too much salt. I think you're genuinely eating too much salt. I think that's the issue. So that's what we got going on right now. That's what we got going on right now in the context of some of these Palantir bears. Dude, it's blood pressure. Okay, it's not cholesterol, blood pressure. Okay, whatever, dude. As you can see, I'm not a health expert. But you guys get my point, right? I think a lot of the bears are just really upset that the price is going up, and they're upset to be upset. They're not really upset with a logical reason. And look, you could say the logical reason is valuation, but I just don't know if that's the best reason to get upset about this. I also think, in regards to Chris's argument about insider selling, I just don't think that's that big of a deal. I think insider selling is, it is what it is. Do I think the insiders sold because they think the valuation is getting up there? Of course. We talked about that for a long time, but does that really matter in the grand scheme of things? No. And again, what my uncle told me yesterday was actually really interesting, because he was talking about some pre-IPO companies that he was investing in and that he's seen IPO, the stock tanks, and then the stock eventually recovers. If the market overall loves the underlying business, tanking off of an IPO doesn't really matter, because there is so much liquidity in public markets that need new assets to get invested in that it will take it higher. And so insider selling is, if you think insider selling means there's going to be no growth, then you have a thesis. I don't think Jensen selling means there's going to be lack of growth on NVIDIA. I don't think Karp selling means there's going to be lack of growth on Palantir. I could be wrong. If there's lack of growth on Palantir and Karp then sold at the pseudo top at 37, then you can make an argument that, yeah, it's like it kind of feels a little weird, right? Because they didn't put up the numbers, but the insiders cashed out. If they put up the growth numbers, even if that can't justify a $42, even like if they grow 35%, but we tank from 42, I will heavily buy that dip because, dude, we're growing at 35%. And especially in a niche like AI, that's incredible. Then I think that's just the market being the market. So those are kind of my thoughts on valuation, and Palantir holding 42 right now is not a bad thing at these levels. But the question is really going to be, what does Q3 earnings look like? Arnie says the fact that there are no AI IPO makes all flows converge into Palantir. This is such a good point, dude. This is why Arnie is so freaking smart. I mean, there's like you can imagine that if there's no AI IPOs happening, obviously a lot of that money that wants exposure to AI, it's going to come to Palantir. And if it's going to come to Palantir, 42.27 on Palantir, I know, the price may be kind of crazy, but if those funds want exposure to AI and they're already leveraged up on NVIDIA, then they might go to the next best thing, which is Palantir. NVIDIA right here at 133, that's up about 0.33% right now. Snowflake is up as well in the day, 2.54%. S&P at 574. PayPal at 81. Oracle at 176. Coinbase 166. Where's Bitcoin? Bitcoin is 61,774. So Bitcoin basically flat right now. AMD at 170. Robinhood at 24.61. Palantir still holding 42.25. Norwegian Cruise Line up 8% on the day. So the cruise lines are having a hell of a day. Royal Caribbean as well up 3.5%. Oracle. Wow. Oracle 170. I think that's an all-time high for Oracle, or close to an all-time high for Oracle as well. And that's getting some momentum. When do you come home, Amit? I come home October 21st. So I reach the airport at 6 a.m. Maybe there's a shot we get to do the market open on October 21st. Probably not. But that is the day that I'll be back. What else do we have? Sahil says I would expect a huge correction on Palantir. I mean, look, man, I think it is possible, but so far the market hasn't given that. Also, that 2x leverage Palantir fund. What is it called? PITR? What was it? That thing's up like 90%, dude. I forgot what it's even called. The Granite Shares one. I had that guy on my channel. Yeah, PTIR. This thing is up over the past month a lot. I mean, this thing was $29. Now it's $46.88. The AUM on this is only 15 million. So the AUM on this is really low. So yeah, the liquidity on it is not amazing. Like if you try to sell puts and calls on this, I don't think you're going to get really decent fills. But it's 2x leverage against Palantir, and Palantir's up like 30%. So this thing is up 60%, which has started to have some momentum. I have no position in this. I'm not trading this. I think this is a little too volatile right now. Palantir itself is already so volatile, but a trading instrument like that has been getting some momentum. Palantir right here, 42.39 right now on the day. Tesla, is Tesla green? Tesla's green. Tesla, we got 1010 coming up soon. Tesla 245. Tesla is up 0.36%. And the S&P right here at 574.15. Okay, that's the market, folks. Let's check in on CNBC and see what we got going on. I'm about to call my ride because I'm about to get out of here. It is about 8:14 p.m. where I am right now, but I think we got about 10 more minutes. So let's get some updates on CNBC, see what actually, no, we can't play the live TV. Apparently YouTube TV is blocked. Oh, by the way, so YouTube TV is not only blocked in India, TikTok. I tried to watch some TikTok last night. Couldn't get any of my TikTok. Why? Because India banned TikTok. So a lot of those other forms of content are gone. Let's see what other updates we can get. But yeah, I think that's what we got in the context of the market open, dude. Hitting 42, pretty insane. Quick thing on Google. Let me show a little bit of an update on Google. I did think that the Google DOJ suit is starting to get real. Yeah, Google coming down about 2%. So the headline on Google, which was kind of crazy. VPN. Oh, that's true. I should get a VPN. That makes sense. I should get a VPN. The headline on Google is that the market is more likely DOJ is more likely to consider a breakup of Google following the monopoly ruling. This is not a good thing for Google unless you think Google is going to be more valuable by a sum of parts. But the Department of Justice late Tuesday indicated that it was considering a possible breakup of Google as an antitrust remedy. The DOJ said it was considering behavior and structural remedies that would prevent Google from using products as Chrome, Play, and Android to advance Google search. The judge has yet to decide on the remedies. I really don't think we are going to get a breakup of Google. I think that's just dramatic, especially because I think Google is going to also fight back against it. But if we do, that's not a good thing for Google, dude. I mean, at least in my opinion, I think that that's going to suck for Google. And that's not going to be fun. I think maybe shareholders will be able to navigate it, but I also think they might, just get pissed off in the short term. I also think that's why we haven't seen Google go up. Google's trading cheap right now, 21 times future earnings. But unfortunately, it is, dealing with the threat of being broken up. And if it's dealing with that massive threat of being broken up, then you're going to have investors think twice before buying it at these levels. It is a headline catcher. It is a hell of a headline catcher that we have going on right now. And that's why I think it's down about 2%. I do think fair value for Google is closer to 185 to 200. I mean, I don't think it's in the 160s. Definitely wasn't in the 140s when it was out there a couple of weeks ago. But now the market's got to figure out if they're willing to pay that for Google. Google would be worth more based on the sum of the parts. This is good news. So that's what people keep saying. I don't know if the market fully believes that. I really don't. Tesla right here, 245. And if the market doesn't believe that, then we might see some more downside momentum. Where's Palantir? Palantir, dude, 42.46. We are still holding $42. I mean, we are still freaking holding $42, which is just incredible. 42.48 on Palantir. Maybe buy before an actual stock split. You know who should do a stock split? I keep saying it, but I think Meta. I think Meta is going to crush earnings. And I think if they do a 10-for-1 split, get it to $58, I think the market would like it. Robinhood, 24.75. So not getting back to 25, but holding above 24.50, which I think is really good for Robinhood. Bitcoin, by the way, falling down 1% as well. So Bitcoin 61.6. I do think this is the time for Bitcoin to either make it or break it. I mean, it's time, dude. It's time for Bitcoin. We're getting into Q4. Hopefully we're getting another couple rate cuts. China stimulated. Bitcoin has bounced many times. I do think that if it was any time for Bitcoin to start moving, hopefully it would be now. But so far that's not happening. The miners as well are getting destroyed, dude. The miners are getting destroyed. CleanSpark right here down about 1%. We had a debate on the miners a month ago on the channel, and the debate was, are the miners worth it? And I just concluded there's no way the miners are worth it. There's so many ways to get leverage against Bitcoin, whether it's MicroStrategy, BitX, Coinbase, which again are all like super volatile. It's not like the miners are less volatile than that. It's just that the miners have to make a real business happen via their mining operations. And if Bitcoin doesn't dramatically move to the upside, you're going to have massive erosion in the underlying because it's not doing the thing that it's supposed to do, which is mine more Bitcoin or mine more Bitcoin in a profitable way. Whereas the others are, if Bitcoin goes up, MicroStrategy goes up leverage. If it goes down, MicroStrategy goes down, but it's not like literally flat or going down if Bitcoin stays flat most of the time. Now, the MicroStrategy leveraged ETFs, so those are a whole different question. But the miners themselves are just, they fall prey to some of those issues. NVIDIA, so look at this right now. NVIDIA is barely up. It's giving away all of its gains. And Palantir is still green, and it's up 2% against NVIDIA, going up 0.03%. So the whole Palantir correlated with NVIDIA thesis I had in the morning, that is not proving to be true right now. Did you see the Hindenburg report on Roblox? Yeah, apparently the market doesn't believe it's that big of a deal, but it is a deal that came out. And Hindenburg responded. They said, "Hey, we reject all these claims." So far, the market has bought the dip on that, but I think there's going to be some more investigation, at least from other firms, to kind of figure out if there's any real argument here, especially on the daily active user stuff, which is the quantitative argument Roblox or Hindenburg was going for. Other people have claimed that same argument. It's still not validated yet. Roblox up 2% right now. And we're going to need some validation on that. S&P at 574, SoFi at 852, Enphase at 104. I just got a text message from the same friend who is up $100 million on Palantir, and he said he has bought 100,000 shares of Tesla. He says his average is 242. So what is that? 242 times 100,000? That's 24 million. All right. So if this friend who has been correct on all of his pre-Palantir buys for the past 2 weeks is going to be correct on this Tesla buy, then maybe Tesla is not a sell the news. Because he's got a $24 million bet that hopefully Tesla is not a sell the news. Tesla right here at 245. Again, Tesla's up a lot. Tesla's up a lot from the lows at 130. But it did hit 265, 270 was the 52-week high. A real big announcement. Does that bust us through those levels? Technicals. Jason came on the channel last week. He said it is possible if we get a real catalyst. I think the question now is Tesla actually going to have a real catalyst? Does he know something? No, dude, he goes off vibes, bro. A lot of these people, sometimes they go off vibes. Like he bought 300,000 shares of Palantir literally off the vibes before the S&P inclusion. And so maybe his vibes are just correct. Give me one second, guys. I'm going to call for my uncle. Hey. Yes. Yeah, do you want me to just take the rickshaw? I could just take the rickshaw also. Yeah, probably. Okay, yeah, you can send him. Yeah. Yeah, I'm changed. I'm good. Yeah. Okay, that sounds good. Yep. All right, bye. Okay, so sorry about that. Yeah, I've got to get out of here, but my uncle can't pick me up because he's stuck in a meeting. So I want to take the rickshaw, trust me, but my mom has been like, she's like made it a rule to my uncle, do not let him go alone on the rickshaw. And so, because she's so afraid, dude, you guys saw the video I posted this morning on Twitter. She's so afraid of me dying in that rickshaw alone. So they're going to send my grandpa, who's going to come in a rickshaw. Like my grandpa's literally going to pull up in a rickshaw in like 5 minutes. And then I'm going to go with him back. But the fact that someone's with me, that like makes my mom feel better. But look, she said I can't even walk on the streets alone, dude. She does not trust me on these Indian streets. And I get it. But also it's just like, it's one of those things where sometimes you're going to have to walk up on the streets. But yeah, if you've been in India and you're a mom, like I get her concern, dude. American Indian streets are nothing, or American streets are nothing like Indian streets. Like it is a skill to just walk across the street in India and make sure, like, you don't get run over, quite frankly. And the Indians here, they're native, they know how to do it. Like it's in their blood. Like they just maneuver through it. But if you're a tourist, if you're someone who doesn't live here, it's actually a bit complicated. Can you take a video of you in the rickshaw going through the streets? I did. I posted on Twitter. I could probably post it on. I showed it on YouTube in the beginning of the stream, Chris. So you can scroll to the beginning of the stream and watch it as well. But it's also on Twitter, and that's in the description if you guys want to see it. But it is pretty crazy. All right, guys, I gotta get out of here because I'm definitely getting late to something. So I gotta go see some more family. 42:37. I will not be back for the market open tomorrow. I will not be back for the market close tomorrow. I'm pretty sure I'll be live for the Tesla 1010 event. So I'll be live. Most likely, if I'm not, then something happened in terms of me not being able to wake up or the internet or something. But 7:30 my time, which is 10 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern. I should be live by like 6:50 or 6:30-ish Eastern. And we should be good to go for Tesla. And it'll be pretty exciting to see kind of how it plays out. 42.50 on Palantir. Up 2.5% of the day. Absolutely incredible stuff. Congrats to shareholders. We got 40, we got 41, we got 42. Usually we don't get 2 new dollar increases in a day. Maybe today is one of those days we get to 43. The momentum is pretty strong right here at 42.50. We'll see what happens. I'll probably be live tweeting it, so you can follow me on Twitter if we do get some more of that momentum. But pretty incredible stuff. Last thing I'll say, and I just want to say this right now because it kind of hit me right before I went live on the market open. And maybe it's worthwhile to some of you guys, maybe it's not worthwhile, but one thing I do want to say, because I felt it, is that it is very important for everyone, particularly because we all care about the stock market and that, a lot of us own Palantir and we're seeing numbers go up on a screen and we're seeing our net worth go higher. To be really grateful for the position you are in life. The amount of poverty that I'm seeing in India, and it's better than what it was 5 years ago because they're modernizing, but the amount of poverty and people that are on the streets, probably don't have a dollar to their name, are looking for any piece of work, are begging for a little bit of food. I mean, it is still pretty bad. And it just puts into perspective, whether you have 100,000 shares of Palantir, whether you bought 100,000 shares of Tesla right before the 10-10 event because you've got that much money, whether you have 10,000 shares of Tesla, whether you have 5 shares of Tesla, whether you are even considering the opportunity to open a brokerage account and invest in Tesla, you are so far ahead of the majority of the world that has nothing to their name and would give up everything for a night to sleep on a warm bed. So it's just one of those things where stock market's been good this year. Gains have been strong this year. Hopefully we can end out the year well, but I hope everyone is super grateful for the fact that they are investors. They are in the investing class. They're in the investing mentality. A lot of people have made a lot of good picks this year. Obviously Palantir, one of the collective picks we made as a community. And we are smart enough to realize our assets can compound, but it's only because we had some of our basic needs met, AKA food and shelter, where we could even think, hey, maybe we want to invest in this crazy ontology AI thing, and maybe that could continue to compound our net worth. So there you go. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it. Means the world to me. Thank you for coming back. We'll be live tomorrow for Tesla 10-10, and we'll keep going from there. Thank you, guys. Have a great rest of the day. I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye, everyone.